Good evening.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, and welcome to the second episode of the podcast. My name is Tolu of the Tolu Afo Twitch channel on broadcast. I come to you from humid and hot Durham, New Hampshire, taking some time out of the week to talk to a good friend and a YouTuber who has traveled throughout places ranging from Europe to South America to the United States, North America, and the Middle East, believe it or not. And he's come here to this humble small hamlet in the in the northeastern wilderness to talk to us today. I'd like to introduce Ben the Rules.
Hello, Tolu. Thank you very much for having me on. It's an honor to be the first in-person guest on your podcast.
This is true.
My first time holding a microphone, so I hope that the people can hear me. Good to be here.
Thank you. It's good. I'm glad you're here. Me and myself. This is also my first in-person podcast. Believe it or not, I know I might look like a seasoned veteran, but but I'm just starting. I'm just getting it started. I'm gonna actually make this thing. Move it to the top of the. It's the follower count, just so that there's
Crazy technology out here.
on the fly. Yo, let's go. What's good, Sana? We got some people in the chat. This is exciting. So, okay, here we are. The name of the podcast, or not the name. The name of the game this evening is we're talking about some stuff related to some of the interesting things that this guy gets up to during the day. During the evening, the early morning, and the afternoon. So, travel. Why is it that you are a travel YouTuber? What brought you here? Why are you here doing what you're doing?
Well, I guess we can break down the two parts of that. Why am I a traveler and why am I a YouTuber? An aspiring travel YouTuber. So I had never really traveled much as a kid. I went to Canada a few times.
Been there too. Yeah. Pretty cool.
I grew up in upstate New York, and my entire perception of travel was just the East Coast of the United States.
Yeah.
Basically, from New Hampshire, actually, I would come often
Right.
down to Florida, and then nowhere west of that. So I was definitely not a seasoned. I didn't grow up in a travel household. Like, my parents did their best, but it was never like we were.
That's fair. I mean, in my case, we definitely did some traveling. Mostly, we would not go anywhere that we didn't have a direct cousin or family member who was already there.
Honestly, same. That's why we were going places. I mean, it was very rare to go somewhere where we were just going to go.
Yeah, we weren't going on these frivolous vacations. Either somebody's getting married, it's somebody's birthday, or a child has been born, and we would only go by car. Nobody's taking a flight anywhere.
Yeah, same. Taking way too many trips in the car to Florida. It's intense. 22 hours of driving.
Yeah, and then it's like, why am I doing? You get there, and then it's not like you're going to a hotel. No, I'm gonna be sleeping on the ground.
Just sleep in the car, and then whenever my dad is ready to go in the morning, we start driving.
Yeah, then whenever he gets his stretches in, gets some $2 coffee from the most recent gas station.
Cardboard tasting coffee.
Weird, and then just pulls out. He's like, okay, good stuff. So. Yeah. Crazy, but yeah. So okay, you didn't travel much as a lad.
But I did not travel much as a lad. But the first time that I ever left North America was actually the same time that you first left North America. You were on the group flight, right?
Yes, the very same.
Tolu and we studied together in university, and we made the interesting life decision of studying physics.
Very interesting, questionable, one might even say.
And we were very lucky to have studied at a university that has a direct study abroad exchange program with CERN, the Hadron Collider in Switzerland.
Yeah.
And so we got to spend 6 months in Switzerland in 2019.
6 months.
And we were quite unhinged at the time.
We were not normal people. I mean, I'm not trying to say we're currently normal people. I would say clearly not, but we weren't then.
Yeah, we were definitely some Goombas. But yeah, I mean, when I first went to Switzerland, I mean, I'd started learning Italian the summer before, and started learning French. Obviously for that experience. Yeah, so like Sal, who's another friend of mine, he and of yours, he wanted to learn Italian because he wanted to do research in Italy, and so I had nothing to do that summer, 2018,
Right.
and I was like, you know what, screw it, like I'll learn some Italian, why not?
Yeah.
Because like languages had never been like a thing that I had succeeded at before.
Word.
Like it was just to the extent that I did it in school.
Right. Same,
And then we just got some textbooks. We had no idea how to properly learn a language. We found some pen pals in Italy, and we just kind of like dove into it.
It was crazy. Like at the time, like because we were already friends, right? And at the time, I was just like, "Damn, like it's not like is it that serious?" Like I was so like because
Italy's prime was 2,000 years ago.
Like my brother, like Rome fell. Like I don't know if you found out, but like I was because it's like I took French in like high school and like a little bit in middle school. Obviously, it's like it's basically I didn't take French, and then like high school I took enough so that I could scam my way into third year French in college on the test, and then and then I was just like, okay. So I thought I was like knew what I was doing, right? And then like it was crazy to see like you guys just like because obviously I didn't know Sal at the time, but then you were just like, yeah, you know, I've pen pals. I'm like going to the teacher every single day to talk to them about Italian. I'm like, my brother, like what? Like why would you do that?
It was just so fun. I mean, I think you realize just the extra culture that like it's literally like unlocking like a new map or something in a video game. Like you really get to experience like the music in a different way, the like the movies, the YouTube and stuff. Not I don't watch movies, but like
he doesn't watch movies.
the music and stuff.
Not a good person.
Of other cultures, and like even just reading the news, like you just get an insight into a whole different world. And I was definitely one of those Americans growing up who was like, I'm 37.5% Italian, 1/8 Polish, a quarter Swedish. Like, so for me, I'd always like kind of, whether it was justified or not, identified with my Italian heritage culture more than the others, in like a way that it was like you felt like it was in your identity, but like it was kind of not superficial, but like because both my grandmothers, I would say, were the closest to having some kind of connection with their roots. My mom's mom was of Swedish descent, and so like we would have like on the holidays like the Swedish meatballs, and I forget the name of the liquor that's Swedish, liquor. But like bro, I don't know it like that.
Yeah, my fault. Carry on. Swedish meatballs?
Yeah,
they make those out of horses, or is that something else?
I don't know.
No comment.
I didn't make the meatballs. I was eating them.
Okay.
But then my dad's mom was she is of Italian descent, nice. And so she makes pasta, and she makes a good sauce for sure.
Nice.
So that was I would eat that growing up, and that was like kind of my only connection to my Italian roots was just because she didn't speak any Italian. Apparently my grandma's mother, before she passed away, when I was 1 or 2 years old, she would like kind of start babbling in Italian because she was starting to lose it. Okay. And so apparently I was around her, so I like to think that I was like immersed early.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because one is like I think for me in some ways I've taken like being like, because I'm not like fully bilingual honestly, but like I've definitely have like this, I feel like I do share some of the traits of bilingual individuals, like who are properly like they properly speak English and Spanish or something, because like I grew up with like this general culture of Yoruba, which is, for those who don't know, like a Nigerian West African language, and like speaking that and being spoken to in that, like there is this thing where it's like you were talking about like culture and stuff, and I'm sure we'll talk about this more, but like how you can interpret music in movies, but it's like this, it's like the way that you think switches, like, and it's like a thing that people who speak one language might not get. I'm not like gatekeeping or anything, but it's kind of insane how like there's like things that you have as emotions and things, the way you think that you want to express, and it's like literally it can be easier to express that in one language over another. And like I don't know if you have had that experience, but it's like it's just like the way that like this language is constructed lends itself to a certain type of thoughts or something.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, every language, because language and culture kind of shape each other. Yeah. I don't know where I really stand on if language shapes culture or culture shapes language. I think it's kind of both, a little bit of both. Situation. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that definitely, I mean, the key when you're it's a bit different if you have two native languages, but I obviously don't. But what I've noticed and what I've always aspired to do is try to be myself no matter what language I'm speaking.
Okay.
So like, you know, when I'm speaking French, which is like my best foreign language, I want to be able to be my same self.
Right, the same person expressing through that language.
Now, that being said, I would say, and I'll speak on French because that's the best example I have, like, there's some things that languages lend themselves better to than others.
Yeah.
So French, for example, they love like wordplay, like little, they call them like word games.
Yeah, they do.
And so I think puns. I do, like, I love making stupid puns in English as it is. Right. And so it's perfect for me. Like, I love making silly puns in French.
Yeah. And yeah, it's like, it's insane. Like, and well, I guess we can continue on the whole Geneva situation, but just like the way that we went about slang and like the way that the French deal with it's not, oh damn, what's the word, is it just l'envers?
Yeah, le verlan.
Yeah, and like how they handle that. And then like, yeah, it was also like just being able to connect between that, like talk to someone who grew up in France, like, you know, like some of our friends, and then talk, like give them what our culture is like, what words we grew up with, and like the way they just go, huh? Like, what do you mean? And it's just like, and then we'll do the same thing for them, and it's wild. So,
but yeah, I mean, I think that experience in Geneva was really when I first of all caught like the traveling like bug or whatever, if you want to call it that. I mean, we went to Basel, another city in Switzerland,
Basel, bro.
Pretty early. That was the first time.
In Switzerland? I'm pretty sure it was in Miami.
No, not Miami. Switzerland. Yeah.
Oh yeah, my fault. Anyway, carry on.
That's a Kanye West lyric reference.
I'm just bad with geography.
So basically, yeah, that was my first time staying in a hostel. It was when we went to Basel in 2019 January, or I think it was very early in our program. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, we went to like Lausanne later that weekend, and Lausanne. You know, I went to like a few other places, and I think once you're in Europe, the thing about
it's so
like if you're gonna start traveling, I do think Europe is like a great place to start
for sure.
Like I definitely recommend going to other places and seeing other continents, because I think that
there's everywhere has somewhere.
I wouldn't say that Europe is the most interesting place in the world, but I think it's a great place to start because
it has really low friction. Like I feel like the friction of travel is so low. Like you can travel like by mistake. It's like it's so easy to get from Geneva to Paris. Like we got to Geneva to Paris. Like I've been 3 different ways. I've gone by train, by plane, and by car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's really crazy. I've been to Milan 4 times, and every time I've taken a different method of transport.
It was like all of them are like reasonable. Like nothing is like obviously it's like you have to plan ahead sometimes for like certain trains or certain things, but most of the time you can really just hit, like you can be like, I'm gonna go this place within 30 days. And you can make it happen.
In Switzerland, there's never any need to like check the train schedule. Like you just show up at the station. There's a train to wherever you want to go in the next 30 minutes.
Which is so crazy because it's like that's just so not the U.S. And like I mean, you know, some of our viewers are a lot of our viewers are European, but some of them are American. And it's like for the people who grew up in the U.S., it's like. Yeah, like your best bet is like we were saying, like your dad just pulling an all-nighter and shipping 5 kids across 14 state lines, and then getting pulled over going 95 in the middle of Nebraska, which has happened. It was great. It was a great time. Or you take like a super expensive flight and all that. But like in Europe, it's like, bro, let's just all get on a train, or let's all like. There's a lot of options, and like I don't think a lot of them are super expensive, honestly, because we were getting around as college students, we were not making money.
But I do think that that's definitely one of the reasons why Europe is a great place to start traveling. The other thing, and this is arguably more important, is not just the ease of travel, but like the density of different cultures. Because when you're in the US, I mean, when you go from upstate New York, for example, or if you even go like all the way down Interstate 95 from the north of Maine to like Miami. Yeah. I mean, obviously each city has its own personality, but like it's like the language is the same the entire way. I mean, the American culture is quite similar. It's a very expansive country, and of course, like, you know, the city and rural divide is very big, but that's the same anywhere you go in the US.
Right.
So it's, you know, especially the language, I think, is you can communicate so easily with anyone. Like, it's not even like in the UK where some of the accents are quite different. I mean, the difference between a California accent and, like, obviously the southern accent is like a bit different, but it's not like, I don't know. It's just very easy to, like, it's quite homogenous.
Yeah, like, and I would say that it's like in the United States, and obviously, yeah, this is probably stuff where it's like, bro, like, people from New York and people from Atlanta would, like, this would break their brains what we're talking about right now. But I would say that, like, there's just, like, it's like in the US is like a very fundamental boundary, like, fundamental culture that everything builds on, and, like, people make. There's differences for sure. Like, nobody's gonna sit here and say,
I'm not trying to say
someone
every place in the U.S. is
Tennessee
the same,
is the same as someone from like whatever, New Hampshire or something. But, like, you can also be like, yo, if you're in, like, it's like you're in one town in Italy and then you go to the next town in Italy, and it's like somehow these people can't communicate with each other.
To communicate. I mean, like, I think that's the biggest thing is the language. Like, obviously the U.S. does share. You know, there's a certain, like, American culture that permeates everywhere, no matter, even if you have completely different political ideologies. Like, there's an American culture which is, like, individualist and all this stuff. But I really think that the language is the main thing, because in Switzerland, for example, I think it's a perfect example. There's 4 main languages, but that's just, like, the official languages. Like, Swiss German is spoken by, like, 75% of the country, but every single city and every single, like, canton region of Switzerland has its own dialect of German, and nobody understands the people in the Valais, for example, in the mountains. And I mean, I really think that not being able to communicate that well with your neighbors, like, you drive 1 hour, and each valley has a different language. Like, I think that shapes in a lot of ways, like, how your culture develops.
And it's like part of it is because it's like it's been sustained. Like, it's like 1,000 years before now, it was still like they were separated like this just by, like, the nature of the environment. Like, it's not like people aren't moving because of, like, it's because they've just lived there. So their version of whatever culture that these people might have shared in the past has diverged in, like, this natural way. Whereas I think in the United States, it's like there's, like, centralized cultures, but there's just a lot of diversification. And so, like, and it's like maybe it's a modern thing of this mixing, and maybe like 100 years ago, there's a way you could make the same argument we're making now for Europe, where, like, there's just not as, like, there's pockets of people who've just been there for 100 years, but it's like, bro, like, the people have been in Switzerland since, like, what is it, 12? What's the year? Like 12 something? I forget.
When people moved there, or when Switzerland became a thing. I think,
yeah.
like, 12th, 13th century is when the cantons started coming together. Switzerland started resembling what it is now in the 1500s, but nonetheless, that's like 500 years,
which is bonkers, yeah.
And so I think, to kind of, like, come back to why Europe is a great place to travel, like, if you combine the fact that you have this great transportation network and the fact that within such a small area you have so many cultures, you can just see so many things in such a short amount of time that are completely different from one another in landscapes. I think the US might have Europe on landscapes. Like, we have some pretty wild nature.
It's like there's some really, like, obviously you're in Switzerland or Austria, your mind will get blown. But then, like, when you go, okay, I haven't personally been to, like, Eastern Europe, but, like, there can be a lot more. It's like, I mean, there's actually very much a lot of beautiful places in Eastern Europe. But then, like, in the United States, you also have, like you were saying, just like these sections of just, like, tropical beauty, forests, like, deserts. Like here, deserts, tundras, fields forever, which is, you know, me having driven through Ohio before in the back of a van with like 5 other people in it. You see corn and you just keep seeing it, and you drive for miles and it's still there in every direction. And it's like, that's crazy. Like, it is crazy how much of it's like, just because of, like, just the function of moving across the planet and having a country so large that it just covers everything. Like, I'm sure you get that effect in places like Russia or China, but I haven't been to those.
Yeah, so basically, you know, 2019 I traveled mostly, really only in Europe and Western Europe at that. Like, I didn't go to Eastern Europe at all. You know, some of the classic cities, we went to, like, Amsterdam. Brussels is a much better place to visit than Amsterdam, in my opinion. I'm sorry for anyone who disagrees.
He's a snob.
I don't know, Amsterdam too touristy.
But we have two.
Brussels great.
Out of all the Twitch like followers I have who are Belgian, none of them like the Brussels. I feel like
They don't like Brussels
because none of them are French.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I know that.
French speakers,
I'm not an aficionado on Belgian
right.
cultural
you
dynamics.
You came here, you're repping it, so I mean,
I do know that. I know that there's obviously beef between Flanders and Wallonie.
Yeah.
You got the Flemish in the north and the French speakers in the south.
They're not fucking with the
they don't fuck
speakers.
with the dynamics, but maybe I'm wrong on this. I think that the sentiment comes from the fact that the north feels like it's supporting the south because there's way more industry and things going on in Flanders. Okay. But I think Brussels has like the most stuff going on. So I don't know how they feel.
So maybe it does reverse it. I honestly don't know. I just know that anytime I ask them if they speak French and they're from Belgium, they get offended. so on those grounds alone, I'm like, oh well, if Brussels speaks French, then they don't fuck with it. But I mean, it's maybe somebody can correct me on that. But okay, so
no Belgians. But
okay, so Europe inspired the travel bugging you.
Yeah, I think so. And then that summer, I got offered an opportunity to stay in Switzerland for the rest of the summer and work on my research project, and I was like, I do not want to do that at all.
He was like, with all due respect.
With all due respect. Switzerland is great, but I had just we got away with not working too much during that time, let's be honest with ourselves. We were just goofing, we were clowning the whole time. I studied for 9 days for my exam and passed with flying colors.
Yeah. This for the classes we took at uni, it was a great time.
It was a good time. Anyways, so then I said, you know what? I'm going to stay in Europe for 1 month more anyways. And so I extended my trip for 1 month. And I went to Ticino, which is the Italian-speaking region of Switzerland.
Beautiful. I might even be here telling the people that it's the most beautiful part of Switzerland.
Yeah, like Ticino and specifically like the city of Lugano that's the most aesthetically pleasing city I've ever seen in my
location.
Life. Yeah. Definitely check it out if you haven't.
Please do.
It's not a big city. It's like 60, 70,000 people, but wow. I mean, would I live there? Like, maybe, honestly, just because it's so beautiful and the quality of life is high. But it doesn't have a ton going on, I would say, but like amazing place to visit.
This is like a casino owned by the Italian government in there, which is like totally just a mafia operation, but that's not for me to judge. Okay. I respect it. Get your money.
So then
this is crazy though, actually. So you were in Italy. You're in Ticino. Speaking to people who didn't speak Italian, right?
Yeah, so this happened a couple of times. So I think this is when it really hit me just how crazy the dynamic is in Europe with the languages. So what I did was there's Workaway. For those who don't know, it's a website where you can basically volunteer. And you can go to like a place and for anything like that you can think of, like restaurants will post workaways, farms will post workaways. In my case, it was a hostel. So there was a hostel who wanted a volunteer, which was me. And so I got a bed to stay in for free. And all I had to do was just be at the hostel present from 5 p.m. until 9 a.m. So every night. And just help guests with whatever they needed. It was very chill. I did like maybe 1 hour of cleaning in the morning and then I could just hang out. And what was also nice was that there was 2 of us volunteering and only one of us had to be present at a time.
Yeah,
I could like take a weekend and be like, yo, you get this weekend, I'll get the next weekend. So that was cool. So I traveled around Switzerland more during that. And that month was amazing. I mean, so beautiful. I was in this valley called Onsernone and there's 800 people in the entire valley, spread across like 10 villages. I was in a village of like 70 people. There was this like Macedonian couple who was running the
Macedonian. That's crazy.
Yeah, who was running the pizzeria, and then like the rest of them were just Swiss. But it was just such a nice place. And I went. There was this dude Luigi, and he didn't work at the hostel, but he was like a handyman of the town. So I feel like he's the guy where if you need shit done in the town, you call him up and then he just comes and does it. If you need like some weeds pulled, you call this guy. If you need a tree cut down, you call this guy. If you need a risotto cooked for an event, like you call this guy. Yeah,
that's fire.
And he was also the marijuana man of the town.
Oh, where did I see?
So pretty quickly I got to know Luigi.
Became very good friends.
Yeah, we became good friends. And this guy, like, I went over to his house one day to like help him pull some weeds. And then there were these 2 ladies, and I said ciao, buongiorno, like hello, how are you doing? And they said ciao, and then I followed up with another question, and they didn't speak Italian, which is wild. Like they only spoke the local dialect of Ticinese.
So they lived there.
They lived there their
but
whole
they
lives.
did not speak
in that
Italian.
valley, in an Italian-speaking region of Switzerland, and did not speak Italian.
Where-
They only spoke Ticinese, which
Dang.
is very similar to the dialect of Milan in northern Italy. And they speak the same dialect in southern Switzerland as in northern Italy. And I guess obviously now the younger people would speak Italian.
Yeah.
But the older people, some of them never learned it.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like that's like really like such an interesting. It's just me like blows my mind that it's possible.
Yeah.
Because it just feels like it feels like the pressures of like a modern, maybe that's what it is. But the pressures of society like or something will just come and give you the language of the land. Like it's like if you were in America, you're gonna learn English. You know what I mean? Like, and so it's crazy that somebody can just grow up in a country with like a government that is functional, and you get to keep like you get to like kind of like I don't know, were they older people?
Yeah, they were older. They were probably
In the
70
70s.
years old.
Yeah, and so you get there and you're not participating in the global society. It's like that blows my mind.
Yeah. I mean, what it comes down to probably is, they were growing up likely in the 50s.
Right.
And if you think of the infrastructure that was in that valley,
Yeah.
I mean, there's barely any infrastructure now. There's actually a bus that goes in like 5 times per day, which is like more public transport than my home city of 60,000 people has. But
surprisingly less than the one that we were in right now.
yeah. But I mean, if you think about the infrastructure, like they had no reason to ever leave that valley. Probably,
Right.
Like, they just farmed most likely, and
which is like funny because it's like you would think that's like how a lot of places should, where it's like most people shouldn't have to like travel and go to like a whole different place to do things. They can do it where they're at.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting.
Cool.
So anyways, that was definitely a very formative experience. Traveling around Western Europe. I mean, I feel like that's kind of like a basic like starting.
Yeah,
travel point,
it's definitely like you started out. You didn't like try to go to like
I was not popping into
like Damascus day one. You're like, yo, like there's this whole ISIS. What's that? You just pull up. Yeah, you didn't do that. Like you started off in a very straightforward place. No one was gonna rob you or do it. Well, they might pickpocket you, but they weren't gonna rob you. So not the worst.
But then that was my junior year of college. Mm-hmm. We come back to Boston our senior year of college.
Gang.
Then we have this crazy friend Eliza.
Yo, shout out to Eliza,
Yeah, shout out to Eliza. Crazy, but we love you.
We love you.
And then it was fall senior year. And I wanted to travel more.
This blew my mind.
She was like, do you guys want to go to Paris for New Year's? And I was like, I mean, it sounds cool, but like,
who has money for that? Yeah, like my brother.
Paris right now, like
my brother in Christ.
15 hours a week part time. Yeah. I don't have enough money to go to Paris.
To do anything. Barely am surviving.
Like from Boston to Paris.
I have rent to pay
just for New Year's. Like,
yeah.
But then, she was like, all right. And then she comes back a week later and she's like, who's trying to go to Colombia? And I'm like,
bro, I wish I could have been able to go for this trip. That
I was like, I mean, and she starts showing pictures, and I'm like, I don't have money for that. And she's like, don't wait until you see this. And we basically funded I funded an entire trip to Colombia, working part-time for 15 hours a week. Granted, like I wasn't paying rent at the time. Like I was living in the dorms that, my parents were helping me out with. But working 15 hours a week for one semester, I was able to fund an entire trip to Colombia for 3 weeks.
Because y'all were there for a minute.
21 days, and I spent like a little over $1,000,
so crazy,
including flights,
housing, and food. Like I know the food was like it was so cheap, it was comical, but like even like flights is kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, the flights. So I was helped out a little bit because I was visiting my grandpa in Florida at the end of the year. Right, so I flew from Miami to Colombia, and then on the way back from Colombia to Boston. The flight from Miami is only like 2 hours to Medellin.
Damn, I mean, okay. And maybe it's because of like the Earth rotation or something. Maybe that doesn't.
No, it's just not that far, honestly.
Yeah,
because Colombia is basically in the Caribbean at the north.
Oh, true. Caribbean, it's on the
Miami is like the Caribbean as well, so it's just crossing the sea.
Damn.
So yeah, Colombia was when I really was like, wow, okay, this is a real thing. I love it, and I think the craziest interaction that I had that kind of showed to me what travel could be when I was in Colombia. Because remember, like I'm on winter break of my senior year and I'm taking a 3-week vacation. Like for me, I had never done a vacation more than like 8 days or something.
And it's like to Idaho or something.
Yeah, like it was for like, camping or something with my dad in New Hampshire.
In New Hampshire.
And here we are taking 20 days and I'm like, wow, like this is so insane.
So
this
wild.
is so much of my life just for being in
just
Colombia.
To hang out with the locals. Like,
and so we're in this place in Salento in the mountains, amazing place.
Yeah.
And there's this lady in the hostel and she's like middle-aged. She's like maybe 40, in her 40s. And I'm talking to her and, it's the classic. I was still getting used to traveling. We can talk about this dynamic in a bit, the hostile dynamic that exists. The hostile dynamic.
Especially in Europe.
Yeah. But I'm talking to this lady and she's like, yo, how long are you here for? Whatever. I'm like, I'm here for 3 weeks. Like I have school break. I was like, yeah, I just sent it and came to Colombia. And then I'm like, how long are you here for? And she's like, oh, I've been traveling around like South America for like 5 months now. And I was like 5 months? Like what do you mean? And then I was like, how long are you going to be traveling for? And she was like, oh, I don't know, just going about it like day by day. And what the fuck? Don't you have a job? Don't you have kids? Don't you like how does not compute? Like my American brain started like short circuiting.
That's so funny.
And I think that was when I realized that like no, some people just go and travel like indefinite.
And it's crazy because like I had one of my best friends from like elementary school. Like he was from the UK and then he moved back when he got to middle school. Like I saw him. I used to follow him on Instagram for and he would be in.
Damn, you unfollowed him?
Yeah, he unfollowed me first. I was like, oh, okay. it was okay. But it was when we were in high school. That dude, I would just see him on like fishing boats in the fucking in like Oceania, like off the coast of like Australia or something. I'm like, bro, like I would. Like back then I was like, yo, I would like kill to do that. And like now I'm like, okay, maybe I wouldn't kill to do it, but I definitely would like to just be able to be like free like that. Just be in the world. Like to really just be out there. And like that's the thing that honestly like makes me want to do the things that I want to do so that I can like put myself in
yeah, so I mean I think like experiences like that, like you see other people doing crazy shit and you're like, whoa, like it really just expands your horizons.
Yeah, like it's like for me, like I think that like going like because the only other time I've left the United States before Switzerland was like I've been to Quebec and I don't even know if I've been. Oh yeah, no, I've been to Montreal as well. And then I've been to Nigeria one time in like 2008 for like 2 weeks. And like besides that, I was like, oh yeah, the United States is pretty cool. I think I'm gonna go to college. Hopefully I can get a good job. I did actually stopped over. I think actually, honestly, that's probably what did it more than anything. Was like we had like a 2-day layover because we missed our flight from the U.S. We went on a U.S. flight U.S. to Paris to Nigeria. We missed the flight in Paris from the layover, so we stayed an extra day in Paris. And I think that like that is like one of the things that made me go, yo, Europe is awesome. And I was like 10 years old and I didn't even do anything. We just took a picture at the Eiffel Tower and that was it.
But yeah, I mean yeah.
So you come out of Colombia, you had speaking of Montreal.
Before we come out of
sorry.
All right. So before we come out of Colombia and talk about Montreal, Colombia was wild. I mean, so much different than Europe. Right. Because it's not like nothing is like regimented, nothing is rigid, everything is just looser, kind of, I think is the best way to put it. But the country was just so naturally beautiful. The people were amazing, like so nice, like willing to talk to you at any time. Yeah. At this point, I was learning Spanish, and it was just the easiest place to learn a language that I've ever been. Yeah, like, they were so willing to talk to me. Like I could just strike up a conversation with someone in a bus. Like you could never do that in Switzerland.
Yeah,
like, you would be looked at so weird if you just started talking to people.
Yeah, like for real. Like no one would want to talk to you. Like the one time though that I went to like I think I went to Cancun. Yeah. Like I just I just decided to go on like this snorkeling thing by myself, and like my family went to do something else, and so I was just out here in the water with a bunch of people who all like spoke Spanish. I didn't know anybody, and then the dude came and said, "Hi, can I take a picture with you?" And, like,
Damn, bro, you were like the white people who go to China, bro.
Yeah. So like these dudes, like this
Oh
dude
my
came up to
God.
me, and was like, "Can I take a picture with you or something?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure." And then like, yeah. So this dude, so then we take a picture together because he's like, "Oh, you're American," and then so he. Like they could not, like it was three people, like him and then like another dude who I think was his brother, and then I don't know, someone I think someone's sister or just their friend who's a woman, and like none of them could speak any English, and so I could speak like all this, like maybe like I could brokenly struggle through sentences in Spanish, and like so we're all talking, and then like they're like, and so then they were all from Colombia, and like out of everyone, like everyone there spoke Spanish, right? But then these three people from Colombia were the people who like came up to me, and like we talked. The rest of the time we were snorkeling and doing all these things, we were hanging out, and then they wanted me to come to the club with them afterwards, but like I had a flight. But what was I gonna say? But yeah, it was just crazy that they were just so warm, and even till this day, they still send me posts on Instagram.
That's like the new way of keeping in touch, is just sending memes.
Yeah,
like,
for real. It's
grandparents used to write letters.
society is just degrading.
Anyways, yeah, no, the Colombians were amazing.
Ice cream's so good.
In every way. Gang.
Gang.
And then yeah, no, Colombia 10 out of 10 time. The food was amazing. The music, like I just felt like everyone was dancing at all times.
Right.
And if they weren't far from it.
Right,
you
like,
know?
anything could get them to it. Like,
yeah.
put a slight beat. That sounds African. Like, it definitely sounds like there's sounds like, at least on a lot of that, like there's just that similarity of everyone is, even though like life cannot always be so easy, like they're all prepared to enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
And like that's pretty sick.
Yeah, that's a good mentality.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Colombians for that. They also almost all, at least the men, almost all of them wore jeans. It was crazy. It was
jeaned
like
up
94 degrees
times.
out. That was how, other than like my appearance, like that was how people could tell I was a gringo for sure.
Because like you would just
I had
have
shorts on.
Yeah.
No, they knew. But anyways, yeah, that was Colombia. 3 weeks there, very cheap. Like I think that also opened my mind to like travel doesn't have to be this thing that you like spend your savings on all the time. Like it can be something that you're actually like not spending money on at all.
Especially if you're not afraid to be in this place.
Yeah.
Like I think it's like when you pay for the resorts and you pay for the hotels, you get the tours, get like this thing so you can like look, you can take, it's like when you want to take a bird's eye view of a country, then you'll pay for all the premium stuff.
Yeah.
But like if you're just like, bro,
at that point, like what are you even gaining from the country?
You
like what's the difference of being in a that's exactly what it is. Is like a flex. Like, oh, I went to Aruba. Like what's the difference between being at a resort in Aruba and just, like Florida? You know?
There's no difference. It's like, because it's like, you need to actually, there's people who live in Aruba, right? So you have to go hang out with them. Like, and that's why like whenever like now like I go places, like I want to hit the most interesting places I can, and then just go to the bars, go places where there.
You almost said the club. It sounded like you wanted to say the club, but then you said the bar.
Yeah.
It's okay if you want to go to the club.
No, I go to the club too.
Anyways,
the bar first. Then I find out where the best clubs are.
Yeah. So that was 2020, early 2020. Interesting time to be traveling because I remember
things were getting dank.
I remember
things were getting hyped up.
My dad is a journalist, so every time I would go somewhere in Europe, I would buy him a newspaper from that city, and then I gave him all of them at the end as like a gift.
Right.
And when I went to Colombia, I did the same, and I bought it, like as I normally would on the last day that I was there, so I didn't have to carry it around the whole time. So it was like January 19th, 20th, 2020, and I remember the headline that day was like, new virus in blah, blah, blah. It's like somebody wearing a mask in China.
So, there's some stupid little bug, a little bit of some sniffles.
Yeah.
Some sniffles we're getting out.
So then I fly back to Boston for the first day of class. I actually missed the first day of class. I was there on the second day of class. And then that weekend there was a hackathon in Montreal that Tolu and I went to.
There was the hackathon in Montreal that me and my friend over here went to. How did that go?
So what they don't tell you about traveling, this is kind of the other side of travel, is that you have to make sure to stay like healthy the entire time,
Yeah.
you know, because
Drink
you're not going
orange
to be
juice.
sleeping that much. You're not going to be getting proper food and vitamins and stuff. And those two things can really like knock you down.
Oh, very
And
true. Very true.
I get back to Boston and we take the bus up to Montreal. And I started feeling like, you know, at the end of the first day, we had like a beer and like I was struggling to get through like the second beer. And I was like, like something's going on here. Like something's not right.
Yeah.
And then that night I developed like a massive fever. And the next day we go to this hackathon. And bro, I was
He's done, bro.
I was like laying down. Like we were looking for rooms in this giant university building in Montreal so that I could just lay down.
And then I was just like, so should I? We was like, yo, you should just join another team. Go. I'm like, bro, what do you mean? Like, I don't know a single human being
on the floor
in this whole location. And so I was like, man, I mean, fuck it. So I just posted up with this dude. I think we got some merch. I think I got a T-shirt out of it. I think I've lost it by this point, but
yeah.
But it was cool.
hacks.
And then Concordia University.
Concordia University. And I mean, we were supposed to code all night at the university. It was supposed to be a 24-hour thing.
We just dipped out, bro.
I was like, bro, you got to get another Airbnb. Like, we gotta go sleep somewhere.
Yeah.
That was a ridiculous time.
So
Tolu, like, I feel bad for this guy because I slept for like 15 hours at this Airbnb, and this dude just like scrolling on his phone the entire time, like,
bro. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I was posted up. I was just like, yeah, I don't know.
It was your birthday.
Oh yeah, true.
Awesome.
It was my birthday. Yeah, and then my birthday was. It was the day that Kobe died too.
Oh my god, Kobe died when we were in Montreal, dude. R.I.P. Kobe.
Bro, rest in peace.
Yeah.
And so it was just a terrible time. I thought this dude got COVID or something like that. I thought you was out here.
It could have been. I bought a mask. I bought like
mask. That was the first time
Yeah.
I saw somebody who wasn't like, you know, from like an Eastern Asian country wearing a mask was when you bought one. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, I was like,
damn.
I don't know, like
maybe it's like
shit.
that. Yeah,
Maybe
actually, I remember that. I remember that
Yeah.
when like we went into that. It was like a CVS or whatever.
Yeah,
Damn,
got
crazy
some
time.
electrolytes. Anyways, that's the other side of travel is like you got to make sure that you're maintaining some kind of healthy routine.
Indeed.
But yeah. So then senior year finishes and all I want to do, my only goal is to come back to Europe. Like I loved Europe so much. I wanted to continue learning languages. I wanted to continue traveling and I was willing to do basically anything to make sure that I had like a sustainable future in Europe, and not just like that 3-month tourist visa kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I wanted a job. I wanted a
like something that will
Something
keep you
that will
there,
keep
like
me
a
there.
long-term visa.
So I interviewed with an Italian company, actually, and basically the job would have been in New York, but I would have been able to go to Italy for like 6 months to get training and like learn stuff. So that would have been like a good alternative, you know.
Yeah,
like if I didn't get anything else.
Yeah.
I interviewed for that. I ended up hearing back from them like a year later because of COVID, but I didn't have
A year
the
later,
job.
what do they
Well,
say?
they hit me up like a year later, and they told me after COVID hit that like, hey, like sorry, we can't hire you right now because of COVID.
Right.
And then 1 year later, they hit me up and they were like, hey, you still looking for a job?
Okay,
So,
interesting.
like, yeah.
So could you have to like interview, or were they gonna give you something?
Well, I think it would have been like kind of I didn't really
Pursue it
because of essentially what I ended up doing. Once COVID came, I realized, okay, a job is not going to happen. Need to get to Europe somehow. So I started applying to masters.
Yeah.
I studied physics for 4 years at university, and I was telling everyone there's no way I'm studying physics beyond this.
Oh, yeah.
Until I realized that was my only way to come back to Europe. So I applied to 3 master's programs in Switzerland, in Geneva, Lausanne, and Lugano in Ticino, most beautiful place.
Indeed.
And then one in Brussels. I got accepted to all of them except Geneva, which is ironic because that's where we had just studied.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And I cooked their exam. Like I killed that shit. And they were like, no, you're not qualified.
We don't respect you.
Yeah.
That's fucked up. Look at you now.
Yeah, here I am now. I got I ended up doing my master's in Lausanne, also in the French part of Switzerland, near maybe 45 minutes from Geneva. And yeah, that was good. I really am glad that I made that choice. I mean, I met a lot of cool people. Lausanne is an amazing student city.
Yeah.
And I was back in Europe, you know?
Yeah, you're back where you wanted to be.
That was really what I wanted. My French got to all new heights.
Right.
You know, the first year I was...
This was 2021?
2020. So I went August 2020.
Oh, yeah, true.
And then I just finished my master's in January 2023. So it took 2.5 years.
Not bad.
But the first year I was living with like a family a Swiss family, and that was okay. I mean, obviously, it wasn't the greatest social dynamic
Right.
because I mean they were very nice, but it
It's
was
your young person and their whole family.
well. What was interesting was it was just the mom and her son, and then her two other kids were away at college. So she rented 2 rooms to
out of the
me and
rooms.
this dude Mathieu, who's from Belgium.
Let's go.
And
Speak French?
so yes, but his dad was from Wallonie, the French part of Belgium,
Yeah.
but he was from the Flemish part, and he lived kind of right on the border.
But his mom was from.
I think so.
Okay.
And so he grew up speaking both.
Yeah. Okay.
So he speaks both. Anyways, so that was like an okay experience. It was also lockdown.
Yeah.
But what I did during that time, because everything was closed, was I would just go on sometimes runs, but mostly walks. And I got to know Lausanne so well. Like I know all the little side streets.
That's so sick.
That was like a really cool experience, like getting to know a city, because it's not a huge city. It's like 150,000 people or whatever.
Right.
I got to know that city very well, like the little ins and outs and
Right.
hidden things, and then by the end of the first year, I started making friends, and I mean it was good. Second year was definitely like the best year of all. I had an internship that was paying well.
Weird.
And I was living with 4 other Swiss dudes, which was great.
Bro, I've had the pleasure of meeting these established fine gentlemen,
Yeah.
and my goodness, are they all very interesting characters, bro. They're all sick people.
Yeah, you
Big
got
fan.
Robin, Paul, Eloi, and Vili. Shout out to them.
Yo,
They,
shout out to I hope Billy's in the chat right now. That'd be sick.
They all studied sports science.
Yeah.
Very good dudes.
Bro, which is crazy to me because it's like I don't know. I know athletes. I've been around people who do sports, but like I feel like the people you were living with were just like different animals, bro.
Oh yeah, they were
different
another level.
beasts.
Particularly
Paul and Robin.
Paul and Robin. Like these dudes are next
Animals.
level, doing crazy
Animals.
feats. Like Paul
Dude,
bikes.
drop a
500
couple things.
This dude Paul biked 500 kilometers in a day.
Wild. 500 kilometers.
Biking. Like
Biking.
the first time I saw this dude, once I was living with him, it was the summer, so they weren't there yet, but I had already
Right.
moved in.
Uh-huh.
And it's like 11:30 p.m. and this dude walks in with like a headlamp on, and he's just like, you know, his face is all red. And I'm like, hey, dude, how you doing? And he's like, oh, good. And I was like, were you just biking or something? He was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, where'd you go? And he was like, oh, I went to from Geneva to Lausanne up to like Basel. Like he went across the entire country.
Like that's like
This dude-
somebody saying, "Yeah, I just went to like you're here in the south of New Hampshire, you know, like near Portsmouth, right?" And you're like, "Yeah, I just went to Montreal."
Yeah, no, it's that level. Like he biked from 12 a.m. to like 11 p.m.
That's
and did
wild.
500 kilometers, just
Wild.
taking small breaks. He also does like he's done days where he bikes up 10,000 meters. You got a new follower.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to personal. I'll check in we're gonna take a break and then I'll thank everybody who followed and all the different.
Congrats on the.
Appreciate it. And somebody gifted subs earlier, so appreciate them. I'll thank you formally.
So yeah, basically this guy Paul is insane. Robin is like also very insane. He used to do the biathlon sport where you ski and then shoot, which is the wildest like. Yeah,
it's like bro, like I guess that shit must have been invented by like some Norwegian dude or some shit.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
just
it can't be like a normal thing that somebody was just
it
chilling.
was definitely like, I mean, that's how they used to hunt probably.
right.
They're like,
in
let's
the
just make a
snow.
sport out of this.
And like they were hunting like
Probably-
bucks and huge deer.
They got to the point where their society was developed enough that they didn't have to do that anymore, and
so
they
they
were
wanted
like,
to keep it going.
they're taking away our livelihood.
That's
We need
what
to make it a
games
sport.
to be honest. Like rugby is just a bunch of people fighting, but they just said, okay, give us your swords and let's try this again.
Yeah. And then Eloi is like an amazing skier. He teaches, and then Vili is a hockey player, but he refs now, and he's trying to make it to the pro league for refing in Switzerland.
Billy is he's a good guy. Like
Funny guy. So anyways, I lived with them, and that really brought my friends to the next level because I was just goofing with these dudes every single day. They were teaching me new expressions, slang, all this stuff.
Cool.
They were introducing me to their friends. Like there would be dinners where it's like 11 people around a
All
table,
speaking
and I'm
French.
just everyone speaking French. At the beginning, I was lost in the sauce. Like I had learned French for like 2 full years and just lived with other Swiss like French speaking people.
And then like it just went off.
And I was like, yeah, I'm really good at French. Like I'm fluent. And then no, there's levels to that. There's levels to that.
And
shit.
it's like me, like obviously I'm I have not had the dedication that Ben has had to learning French and amongst other things. But I will say that like the month that I stayed in like Switzerland with Ben at this place, I like my French like skyrocketed in ability. Like I was like by the end of it, like we went to Paris and like I was in the club just talking to 3 different people in French at the same time, and like and obviously I wasn't speaking good French, but I was able to just it was just coming off my head. Like I wasn't thinking. It was spontaneous. It was spontaneous. At that point, and it was like because it's just like all these interactions in French and people who even if they're not talking to me, then they're gonna talk in French. And if they're talking to me, they're gonna talk in a mixture of French and English. But it's like, yeah, it's crazy.
So to speed things up a little bit to get to the YouTube part because we're talking about the travel part. So before I lived there, this was summer 2021, right before I moved in Donge with these 4 dudes. I had like a free summer, right? And this is when I like, brought my travel game to the next level again, right? So essentially I had an entire free summer. I was starting an internship September 1st and I finished exams like the first week of July. So I had 2 months to do whatever.
Yeah, that's fire.
And I hit up my friend Sal, who we referenced earlier, and his friend Big Bone Tone and Antoine. And the 3 of us, we biked from Lausanne into Italy and finished in Nice. So we took like kind of a horseshoe of a route. We went basically from Switzerland down to Milan and then to Bologna, Florence, and then up the coast. So we did a horseshoe,
right?
And then finished in Nice in France. It was like a 13-day trip or something.
Wow,
and I think we biked 11 of the days. We took 2 rest days in the middle.
Okay.
But yeah, that was like I love physical challenges, and so combining physical challenges with traveling, was awesome.
It's good. Yeah,
it was so great.
Yeah. Crazy.
So that was like 2 weeks, and then after that, my girlfriend Mia is Lebanese, and so she goes there every summer and visits her family. And she was like, you got to come to Lebanon. And I'm like, I don't know. I got to do this bike trip. And I was putting it off. And then finally I was like, all right, I'll come. So I went to Lebanon. That was also just a wild time. I've been there twice now.
And I wish I had been able to go the second time.
Okay, next time. Maybe the third time.
For sure.
Yeah, Lebanon's a crazy country. Obviously, it's been through a lot in recent years, but the people are very resilient. They have this amazing, sarcastic sense of humor where they just like make fun of the situation that exists, and
like
they're memers.
Any place where the people are just suffering, they also have excellent senses of humor.
yeah, definitely the Lebanese are very good at that.
Nice.
But like very cynical, but in a funny way.
And like it's like they're gonna push through it, but they're definitely acknowledging the shenanigans that they're currently experiencing.
For sure.
But okay, Mr. YouTuber.
Yeah.
You want to get into the why did we start the YouTube channel? How do we get to that?
So then I just want to tell this last part here quick, and then I'll get to that in a second. So that summer, basically, we had these 3 things.
Okay.
Which was the first one was Italy bike trip, the second one was Lebanon, and then the third one was a little bit of a backstory.
Go for it.
So basically, I come from Utica, New York, in upstate New York, and it's a small Rust Belt town. Basically, used to have manufacturing jobs. The population kind of went like this during the 19th or the 20th century, and it went from about 100,000 people to 60,000 people by the 2000s. But in the late 1900s, the city opened up a refugee center. And that refugee center was for people to who were in conflicts abroad who came to the U.S. as refugees.
Right.
A lot of them were resettled in Utica, and one of the first and biggest groups that was resettled was Bosnians, and specifically during the war in the 90s and then after. And then so for that reason, I have a lot of Bosnian friends in Utica. Shout out Sanad Bellman.
Yo, Sanad Bellman.
Those are the 2 dudes I talk to all the time.
Much love to both of those dudes.
Yeah, and all the other Bosnians as well. Ahmed, that's another dude I talk to sometimes.
I don't know those Bosnians, but I trust that they're good people.
Yeah. So Bellman, he went to Bosnia that summer, 2021, to visit his family because also, a lot of the Bosnians in Utica go to family during the summer.
Fair.
And I was like, yo, I'm free. I haven't seen you in a while. Like, let's meet up in Bosnia. So I went and stayed a week with him.
Yeah.
And then I went to Sarajevo for a week, the capital.
Ooh.
And wow, like, dude, that country is wild. Like, that is one of the best countries I've ever been to, if not the best. The lifestyle there is just amazing. Like, it's my favorite place I've
like, what do you mean?
traveled. Like, it's a place where it obviously doesn't share the same like political turmoil and economic crisis as Lebanon. Like, you know, it's not the most developed country in Europe, but there's just no stress on the people, it seems, like in their day-to-day lives. There are problems, but it's like we're just gonna drink coffee and smoke cigarettes and relax. And
right.
That's it. And like we're just gonna like talk about the problems, but like we're just gonna drink the coffee and like
it happens.
And then beyond that, like the family values to them is like you just sit around the coffee and all that's being talked about is like just grandchildren, and it's just so like cool and to like hear them talk about that kind of stuff. And then like whatever's going on in the village is like the biggest news. Like if there's a wolf that like I don't know, like
ate a sheep or something,
like ate a sheep, like this is the talk of the town for the next week.
That's funny. That seems like so similar to like Nigeria,
Yeah.
where like literally half of what people talk about is either the grandchildren or like conflicts when it comes to like farming or things like that. That's funny.
But yeah, just the way of life was beautiful. And so that's how I started like getting like truly interested in Bosnia. One other thing that I have to say is when we were in Geneva in 2019, I really got into learning languages.
Yeah, that's very cool.
And so there's this program called Tandems where you could do a language exchange. And so I was learning French, and I saw that there was someone who wanted to learn English that was Bosnian. So we started speaking Bosnian and English together, and I started learning Bosnian. And you know, it was like pretty basic at first, but now I've been to Bosnia 3 times, so I can like hold a conversation. Yeah, that's kind of where I was at like in 2022 when make a YouTube channel.
Okay, interesting.
So basically I was in Lausanne. It was my second year there.
Yeah.
And one day I was like, it would be hilarious because they have this pizza vending machine in Lausanne. And I was like, it would be hilarious if I brought my Italian friend Carlo to this pizza vending machine, because Carlo is like the most American Italian that I know, because he spent a year in the U.S.
Like
and his English in Pittsburgh.
Oh,
Even better. Great taste of U.S. culture for him.
Pittsburgh.
But he speaks English like he's American. Like you couldn't even really tell that he was Italian until you start talking about food. And then it's like everything kitchen related. Like this dude is a pro.
Yeah, he just
like,
pops off.
He's like, there's like too much whatever in this carbonara. I don't know. But like also with pizza, he's like, you know, he's like the Italians. He's particular.
You can't do that with the pizza.
You cannot put the chicken on the pizza.
Why would you put the chicken in the sauce?
Yeah, so this dude needed to try the vending machine pizza is what I decided. And I was like, this would be hilarious if I just made a video of it, and I guess I'll put it on YouTube. Like, I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
So we did the video in Italian too, which was fun. We put like subtitles and everything. And then we went and ate the vending machine pizza. It was better than we both expected. And then in the middle of the video, I cut into me asking you a bunch of absurd questions from Quora. We went on Quora and just found like the dumbest.
Talked about like something. What was one of them was about? Was it the capital of one country?
Capital of
close to
Slovakia.
Slovakia,
very close to the capital of Austria.
Okay, so it's like,
and you were just shitting on the capitals. Yeah. I mean, it was a wild time. We also asked if Moses would be able to. No, is ancient Hebrew intelligible with modern Hebrew?
Oh yeah, and I started talking about Moses.
You started talking about how if Moses pulled up on the streets of Tel Aviv, he would be arrested on the spot.
Bro. Damn, that's fire.
Anyways,
anyway, carry on.
All right, so that was my first idea to make a video. Like, I didn't have travel and videos in mind yet. I just wanted to make silly content. Yeah. And I wasn't even thinking about like growing my channel at that point. I was like, if this video gets like 30 views, I'll be happy. And then it got 200. So I was very happy with that.
Yeah.
And then after that, Felix, who's our friend from Boston, this guy comes to Switzerland to visit me for
Yeah.
a few days, and we're like, we got to do something crazy. We got to make content. Bellman had invited me to go to Bosnia again.
Okay.
This is now 2022, but
I was also somehow here during this time.
yes, you were here during this time. That's right.
Yeah.
When Felix came.
Yeah, when Felix came.
And then I think you left, and we left like 2 days later for our trip.
Right, yeah.
But Bellman had invited us to Bosnia, but we didn't just want to go to Bosnia because, well, I had like no money. So I had just finished my thesis. I was completely broke. I was like working part-time in the parks.
Big broke.
So I was like, all right, how are we going to go to Bosnia and not spend money?
Great question.
Well, that's almost exactly the title of my
This was,
of the YouTube video.
This was the premise.
Yeah, this was the premise. Was I don't have money and I want to go to Bosnia. But Bellman wasn't even in Bosnia at the time. He just said like, yeah, you guys could stay with my family, whatever. So that was kind of ridiculous, but I mean, in a great way. Like it was just silly.
It was a good strategy.
So we started in Lausanne, and we went all the way from Lausanne to Bosnia over 5 days without spending any money. At first, the goal was like, yo, we have like €100. Like this, we just need to get to Bosnia with this.
Right.
But then, like day one, we started hitchhiking.
Okay.
Having never hitchhiked before.
That's like so like that's the craziest part I think of this was just like, yeah, you guys are like, we're gonna just hitchhike across this whole place.
We had no idea how to hitchhike. Our friend Alicia is like
downplayed it probably.
She's an expert hitchhiker.
She like we said, crazy. We love you, but like you,
Alicia, not Alicia.
Alicia. Oh yeah,
different
true,
person.
Sorry.
Also crazy, but we love you, Alicia.
I think Alicia. Alicia also hitchhikes.
Alicia? I don't know. Maybe.
Anyway, all that to be said, Alicia
and I did actually hitchhike quickly once in Colombia, just to like somebody just offered us a ride one time to get somewhere. But yeah, no, I had never like truly hitchhiked.
Yeah. Okay.
And so then we pull up on the side of the road, and so say like the cars are coming from this way, like on the right side, so over there, and this dude Felix is standing like facing the wrong way, and I'm like. We should
like
probably.
My brother.
Like, this is my first time too, but like we should probably face the cars.
Rotate.
So yeah, I mean, I was just filming with an iPhone and like getting like silly footage.
Right.
It took us like an hour and a half to get our first car, and I was like, bro, should we just like run this back tomorrow? Like I don't know.
Just went home.
Yeah, and
tell
then,
Belvin we'll see you.
Finally, we get a ride just like 5 minutes to the first rest area. And once you're on the highway, it's like a super like boost or whatever because you have other people who are on the highway going to similar locations.
Yeah.
And so that made things faster.
That's
and
nice.
then we get like maybe 4 or 5 rides to get to Martigny, which is in the valley of Switzerland.
Yeah.
And now we have to go over this giant mountain
Right.
into Italy and then get to our goal is to get to Milan or past Milan on the first day.
Okay.
And this dude, Masi, this Afghani dude, pulls up and picks us up and drives us up and over the mountain.
I think I remember this from the video.
Yeah, it's in the video. He's
okay.
Yeah, he was teaching me like a couple words in Afghani Persian. I completely forgot. But yeah, good dude, very nice dude. He even drove like out of his way at the end to drop us at the proper rest area.
Yeah.
Which is always nice when people do that. And then we pull up to Milan. It's like 6 p.m. We know we're not going to make it to the place where we might have possibly been able to stay.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, shit. We don't have enough money to like get a hostel. Like if we get a hostel, then we're gonna spend like all of our money.
Yeah.
So I hit up this girl that I had met in Bosnia the year before, Mavi, and shout out to Mavi because she happened to. I was like, I think she used to live in Milan or something. Like maybe she knows somebody. Turned out she was in Milan.
Oh, wow.
Just happened to be there like at her apartment because she usually travels for work.
Right.
She was like, yeah, of course I can host you. It was like 104 degrees outside. Like we woke up the next morning sweaty as fuck.
Right.
But yeah, so we get a place to stay, and then I think that was when we realized like I think we can get to Bosnia with no money. Like I really do.
That's like so crazy.
End of day one, it was like I just remember the euphoria of walking through the streets of Milan being like, we just got here like 500 kilometers with no money. Like I've not spent a cent today.
That's so crazy. Like that's wild.
And yeah, that was just a wild feeling. And then we were like, we're gonna need money. We need to eat food. So we go down to like the bars area.
Yeah.
And Felix starts singing for people, like just reading the lyrics off his phone, and I start writing these shitty poems.
Right. And
so
people
we gave you money from there,
which is wild too.
And then the next day we did that again at the Duomo, the big cathedral, and that was like the cash cow.
Oh yeah,
we met some
you
Swiss
popped
people
off.
that gave us $5.
Oh,
my God.
light work.
Yeah, and then like this one Romanian lady gave us $10. And I
Oh
was like,
wow, you're just like damn.
and then and then the real big help of that day was this Egyptian dude pulls up and he's like, listen, I can't give you a ride. You shouldn't be hitchhiking. Hitchhiking is illegal in Italy.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Egypt.
I was like, thank you, Mr. Egypt. And then he was like, but here, take the bus, and gave us a €50 bill.
Dang,
that was wild. That was so absurd. And that was like basically what funded the rest of the trip.
Right. Because you didn't take the bus, right?
No, we didn't, because the bus was too expensive.
Oh, it wasn't. It was more than
just
that.
hitchhiked the rest of the way to Trieste on the second day.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And then we used that to pay for our hostel.
Okay.
We stayed with my girlfriend's cousin's boyfriend in Zagreb on the third day. And
Nice.
then we slept outside of a gas station on the fourth day.
Oh, word?
Oh yeah.
You just slept outside.
Bro, we were, if you want to see all this, it's in day 4. Day 4 of this trip. If you go online and watch one day of this trip on my YouTube channel, day 4 is the wildest one.
Okay.
So basically, the first half of the day was kind of slow. We started in Zagreb.
Yeah.
But we started very late because we hadn't slept properly in 3 days.
Okay.
And so we were at Luis's house. Shout out Luis, who is my girlfriend's cousin's boyfriend.
Okay.
And we had like a comfy ass couch in bed, so I slept until like 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Which is very late. Always start early if you're gonna hitchhike.
Rule number 1.
Rule number 1,
or 2.
Yeah, I would say rule number 1 is have a buddy.
Like, okay, rule number 1, have a buddy. Don't go alone.
So
take this.
Then it's like 10 a.m.
Okay, so you're late.
His coworker had given us like $15 the night before. Like she heard what we were doing and she was like, "This is great. Take this." And I was like,
"Wow."
And then
it's like gold, like liquid gold, because it's like
so we buy a bunch of groceries, which is gonna be enough food for the day,
right?
And then we hop in. We get on the highway by like 12 or 1 p.m. It's already very late. Yeah. We started way too late. That ended up coming back to haunt us. So then we get finally picked up by this French dude. It's like starting to get dark now.
Yeah. Wow.
And he drives us to this exit, and it's the one right before the border to Bosnia. And then there's like 2 hours of driving in Bosnia, or an hour and a half, and it's not on the highway. Like we know it's looking not too great to like make it to Bosnia, to make it to Bellman's house by that night.
Yeah.
And this is where the crazy part of the video starts. It's probably like halfway through.
Right.
But we get dropped off on the side of the road, like because he didn't want to get off the exit and just drive 3 minutes to the gas station and then like keep going, get back on the highway. He just left us at the exit.
Oh.
We had to walk along the highway for like 15 minutes, like just next to the highway on the grass.
Damn, that's crazy.
And
wait, so I don't get it, like because he was going into Bosnia.
So no, he was not. Sorry, I didn't explain that well. So he's going straight to Serbia, and then we need to get off the highway to go to Bosnia.
Oh,
and so he could have just gotten off the highway and driven 5 minutes, dropped us off at the gas station, and then gotten back on the highway.
Right, but he didn't.
But instead of that, he just dropped us at the exit.
Right.
And then we had to walk like along the highway to get back to the road that goes into Bosnia for like 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah, that's wild.
And so, it's starting to get dark, and then we finally get to this like bridge, and we cross the bridge.
Yeah.
And then we have to like hop the fence, and then we have to run down this steep ass hill, and we're like sliding down it.
Dang,
and we're like getting like fucked up by the plants.
Yeah,
it was just a wild time.
Damn.
And then we get to this gas station that's like maybe 20 minutes, like 5-minute drive from the Bosnian border.
Right.
But like an hour walking. Okay. And it's getting dark now, and we're like, shit, we're fucked.
Yeah,
so like,
we're cooked.
And then
our goose is cooked.
Yeah, we were cooked. And then we're waving our flashlights at people driving by.
Like, please.
Almost all of them slow down, realize that we're hitchhiking and not like in danger or like injured or something, and then just speed off.
Oh, that's like, hilarious.
Every single time it happened.
Like, nah, get the fuck out of here. It would
just happen like 50 cars in a row.
That's wild.
Finally, these two girls pull up, Antonia and Eva.
Let's go.
And we're explaining to them what we're doing. We're like, listen, we have a YouTube channel. Like, I have like 12 subscribers. Like, you can be on the channel. And then we get in the car. Like, they're like, yeah, you can come. So we get in the car, and then we're like, so where are you guys going? And they're like, oh, we're going to Bosnia. And we're like, oh, nice. Where? And they're like, we're going to the club. And it's like, can we go to the club? And so we went to the club with these girls. So they brought us into Bosnia. It's like 12 in the morning. It's like a Wednesday night.
That's so sick.
And I think like one of them was going back to school the next day. So like it was their last night together. They wanted to party.
Right.
And so we pull up to the club. There's like 3 people in the entire thing.
Word.
And it was pay €5 and get unlimited drinks.
Oh,
so
damn.
We didn't have
That's
money
light
at this
work.
time because we had spent all of it on food, but they covered our fee.
Okay,
so like
that's
shout out
nice.
to them. Thank you, Antonia and Eva.
Good stuff.
And yeah, I mean, we got unlimited drinks for that. Like this dude Felix was like taking advantage of it.
Yeah, of course.
Like
I don't doubt it, bro. Shout out to Felix, bro.
We had some marakia. It was great. But the thing that was nice about there being nobody there is like we could request like whatever we wanted because nobody was at the club.
Yeah.
That was mad silly. Then we went from like this ultra high of being at the club to
now nowhere to
now
go.
we don't have anywhere to sleep and it's 1 a.m. and we're just in this random town in Bosnia.
And so where did they go? They just kept going in a different direction?
Yeah, well, they went back home to Croatia. They were just coming here to party.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then they dropped us back off at the gas station.
Oh, the same one you came from?
No, a different one.
Okay.
So that one was in Croatia. They dropped us off at one in Bosnia.
Okay.
And now it's like 1 a.m. We meet this dude and Luca, I think was his name, and he was a taxi driver. Okay. And he hears about what we're doing, and we're just goofing around with this dude, and then he's like, "Oh, like my friend is coming," and then his friend comes, and his friend offers us a place to stay, and they're like, "We'll be right back. We got to go buy weed," and then they never came back. So we thought we were gonna be able to sleep at this dude's house, Luca, or maybe Luca's friend, and then we ended up just posting up outside the gas station all night. Yeah. And
how was that?
Oh, it was terrible. Like I slept like 30 minutes.
You're just like I would raining. Just be like worried that like someone's gonna just pull up.
I mean, we didn't both sleep at the same time. Like Felix didn't sleep. It's impossible to hitchhike at night. Like there's so few cars, and like nobody wants to pick somebody up at night.
Yeah.
Start early if you're hitchhiking. Seriously,
start early.
Rule number 2.
Rule number 2.
And yeah, basically we just waited until 9 a.m, and then finally a truck driver picked us up. But yeah, that was day 5.
Yeah.
So that was definitely the wildest time. Was just, right. I slept 30 minutes outside this gas station, and then it was just pure hell until 9 a.m. Like we were so tired.
Lord.
We had barely any money. We were able to just get like some biscuits.
And then like keeping your phone charged.
Well, they did have an outlet at the gas station, so that was good. Like I remember I kept going into the bathroom, but especially when you're like filming on an iPhone, it drains the battery so quick.
Yeah. Huh.
So yeah, that was the hitchhiking trip.
Yeah.
And so after this, I was like, all right, like this is actually
good content.
Good content. Like it wasn't. Could it have been filmed better? Could the story have been told better?
As always.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, it's like my 4th video.
Yeah, of all time.
It definitely was like a big moment for my channel.
Right.
For my still young channel.
budding youth.
My budding channel. So that was interesting, and I still didn't know where I wanted to go, what direction to go in. Mm-hmm. I just knew I wanted to travel and do like silly things and like intense things.
Right.
And then I had 15 days free in September because my lease ended on September 1st, and my next lease didn't start until September 15th. My girlfriend was back in the U.S., and I was like, I have nothing to do.
Right.
So I searched cheap flights from Geneva, and the cheapest one happened to be to Pristina, Kosovo.
Let's go. Oh, yeah. That's so funny.
Cool. So one other thing I'll mention about that Bosnia trip, because we had a great time. We went to Sarajevo.
Yeah.
We had to go run errands in Kladanj, which is just like a small city, like 10, 15,000 people near where Bellman lives.
Interesting.
We had to buy a basketball.
Okay.
Because there was no basketball in the village. We had to check the bus schedule to Sarajevo. We had to buy cevapi. We had to exchange our euros for Bosnian marka.
Okay.
And we had to do those things. And I was like, let's make a little vlog out of it. And so that was the first time that I made like a true proper like travel vlog.
Right.
Like,
okay.
We're going to go do these things in this country.
I'm going to show it.
Yeah. And I'm going to show it. And I think something about it just being very mundane, like Americans doing mundane things in Bosnia in this random town. Mm-hmm. And then also combined with the fact that while we were eating, this little like 12-year-old kid comes over.
Oh yeah.
And Armin, who's Bellman's brother, he was like, he's gonna ask you for money. But like, he was a nice kid. Like he was goofing around with us. Like he was like, I was like, what are you doing? Like, why aren't you in school? And he was like, oh, like I'm not in school. I don't have enough money for books and whatever. And then
that was his sales pitch.
Yeah, he starts dribbling the basketball, and I'm like, you don't need books if you can play basketball like that. Like shit, going to the league. My guy.
Yeah, word. Hoop dreams.
Dude, I think his name was Hussein or Hassan, something like that. Nice. Point is that I ended up giving him a few euros, but
okay, nice.
Like very, very like funny kid, and that like was the thumbnail and title of the video,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
getting hustled by a 12-year-old in Bosnia.
Yes.
And
this is when Ben went down the dark path.
I mean,
of YouTube
I
algorithms.
think if we want to get into like YouTube weeds, like you do wanna like somehow title your video something that's like
That's
a piece of your video. Like if you do 5 things in the video, just take the one that is your like choose one. If it's your favorite,
Right.
if it's the one that you think is gonna get the most clicks, whatever, like
Yeah,
put that as the title and thumbnail, because if you try to sum up all 5 things,
you're gonna get
the title
nothing.
and thumbnail, it's gonna be too confusing.
Yeah.
Like, you have to remember that people are looking at this shit for like
2 seconds.
2 seconds, and then they're moving on. So
they have to
getting hustled by a 12-year-old with just like this little kid smiling on the front, like I think it was like
it's compelling.
and I don't think that's why I picked that for the thumbnail at the time.
Yeah.
Like now I would do the same thing, but I think that I had this like air about me when I was first starting to make content, where it was like, oh, like I'm just gonna do this because I think it's good, and then like I think I really had some early successes because of that.
Yeah.
And then that was my first travel video, and the engagement that I got on it, beyond the views, because like, you know, it's like one of my better videos, but beyond the views, it was the people commenting, like, thank you so much for coming to Cloudon, like how do you know this place exists, like this is my hometown, so cool to see it on YouTube. Like that was wild.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And like people were commenting about the kid, they're like, yo, like
I know him.
about his age, like, yo, I see this dude at the gas station every day, like,
yo, I'm dead. What, he's just short? He's like 36 years old, turns he just like, yeah, bro, so how do you drive all those nice cars? Yeah, I just hustle travelers for pennies on a dollar.
Yeah. And so another aspect of that video that I think set the stage for later videos was like, because I have learned Bosnian to some extent, is I'm able to talk to the people in Bosnian.
Okay.
Like I was goofing, like if I didn't speak Bosnian, I couldn't have goofed around with that kid.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been engaging. Like I could have done the same things that I did, but it wouldn't have been the same level of interaction with the locals.
Mm-hmm.
So then I pull up to Kosovo like 2 months later, or a month and a half later. I had finished my master's thesis and everything.
Okay.
And I just knew I wanted to make a couple of videos. I didn't know what about. And it turned out to be just like I think 4 of my top 6 videos are from Kosovo.
Like these, which is like crazy to me. Yeah. Like the thing that's crazy to me about it is like the fact that like you were just like, yo, where are the cheapest flights to? Like it's just like such a fundamentally unplanned thing, right? Where you just let it. Like I'm sure you did a lot of planning into it. Don't get me wrong.
No, it's not.
But like that's interesting to me.
Like what I wanted to say is like if there had been like a cheaper flight to Portugal, like I don't think I would have gone there. For example,
I see.
Like I was definitely looking in that kind of region of the world,
Balkans,
because the Balkans they're cheap to travel to. It's cheap there as well.
You can speak the language.
Beyond that, like I speak Bosnian, which is the same as Serbian, Croatian, Montenegrin. Some people say that it's the same.
Some people may disagree.
People can communicate with each other. Whatever you want to say about it.
I'll take your word for it.
We have different words for bread. Like, I don't know. Whatever you want me to tell you.
You use the same alphabet, my brother.
The Serbs use the Cyrillic alphabet.
Okay. Now we're getting pushback, huh?
There
you go. We figured it out.
Anyways.
So we get to Kosovo.
I'm very interested in the Balkan region.
Yeah.
Yugoslavia, I think, was just a fascinating country.
Yeah, they're like split up.
It split up, of course. And even during its time, maybe we can talk about this after we talk about Kosovo, but during its time, Yugoslavia was in a very unique position in the world.
Okay.
Which we can cover in a bit maybe. But so I pull up to Kosovo. Having no like true intentions of what I was gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
I had a hostel booked for the first 2 days.
Nice.
And
out of how many days?
I went for 10 nights.
You had only 2 days.
And I had 2 days booked. Yeah, because now I'm a seasoned traveler by this point. Like I've traveled to places like the Colombia trip. That was my first like true long trip. That was like we had every single thing. We knew what we were doing every day. We had a spreadsheet. We knew what hostel we were staying in. We had it all booked.
Okay.
But the Kosovo trip, I'm like, I'm here to make content.
Figure it out.
I'm gonna book a hostel for 2 nights.
You can get a third night, or you can get it. It's like not.
If I want to stay here, I'll stay here.
It's very variable. Okay.
And another huge thing that I didn't even really realize was the case at the time, but it turned out to be the case. September is one of the best times to travel of the year because the weather is very nice still.
It's not
and
hot as
nobody is
fuck.
on vacation.
And no,
during
yeah,
that time.
everyone's back.
Everyone
in
is
work and
back
school
to
or
work because
whatever.
everyone in Europe especially takes August off.
That's true.
So they're back
yeah.
in school. They're back at work. There was nobody in these hostels.
Dang.
Like
so
a few
I'm
people.
sure that means the prices dropped like a
The
lot.
tourist prices go down.
Yeah.
There's barely any tourists anywhere. Like I really feel like I was getting a sense of like this is how the society is here, not like oh look at all these like
because people are coming
walking
for
around.
vacation. Like it's like this is how the baseline how people live their lives.
Yeah, exactly. Like I really felt it was that in its purest form. Like because not only are there fewer tourists there, but it's also like there's fewer people like flaunting and advertising for tourists.
Right, because there's nobody there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's plenty of people there, but they're all
Right.
from there.
Right. Kind of like New Hampshire right now.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Or Durham right now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. College town, empty. So yeah, Kosovo was a great place,
Yeah.
and the host of the hostel, Malsor, great dude. On the first night, he was a year younger than me,
Okay.
but he's like a tech guy as well. Like he does that kind of stuff, but he also runs this hostel with his parents.
That's pretty cool.
And he told me when I told him that I was making videos. At this point, I think I went to Kosovo with like 110 subscribers,
Not bad.
and he told me like the people of Kosovo, once they see that you're posting about Kosovo, they're gonna really enjoy the fact that you're making videos about like our country. And
Okay.
like the Albanians really like when people go and make content about their country. He was like, they'll engage with it positively. And wow, did they.
yeah. So
Because the first vlog I made, basically this dude Shin, you know Shin.
yeah. Big
Who's
Shin.
from
So
Switzerland.
shout out to Shin.
Shout out to Shin.
You're gonna be on the
He-
podcast one day.
Yeah, he has a friend in who's in Switzerland but is Albanian from Kosovo,
Okay.
and that guy's cousin was in Kosovo. So like
Oh.
I have not even any connection to
The
Shin's
dude,
friend.
but
let
now you're
alone-
two
yeah.
levels in.
Yeah, exactly. Like when I stayed at Mia's cousin's boyfriend.
Cousin's boyfriend's house. That's not.
But yeah, I'm 2 levels in, and this dude Ardi, I don't know. I think they say the same R as us. Ardi.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This dude Ardi was super cool, like a little bit unhinged and crazy, and like
I'm W2.
party animal for sure.
Excellent. We love that.
Yeah,
That's
but
great.
good dude. Like definitely not my speed. Like this dude was levels beyond
That's
me.
mad funny.
But a very very nice guy.
Okay.
And he gives great haircuts.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Got
like
that.
that's the only fade I've ever had in my life. I got my haircut twice while I was there. By
Oh,
him.
wait.
Yeah.
That's mad funny. In 10 days, two
in
haircuts.
10 days, yeah. Like I got a haircut, and then I was like, damn, because Mia, like my girlfriend, she kept seeing it, and she was like, yo, it looks great, like whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, it kind of does. You're right. And so then, as I was about to leave, like the day before, I
did
got
it again
yeah.
just so she could see it fresh.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, shout out to Artie. He showed me around the city,
Word.
and we were with this dude Noah. Who was just at my hostel. Like
Oh,
we
okay.
went and hung out with Artie. He showed us some bars, and the nightlife in Pristina was crazy. It
Word.
was pristine, you could say.
Ah.
And
Good stuff.
Kosovo is by far the
Huh.
youngest country in Europe.
Oh, really?
Like there's so many young people there.
Oh,
it's,
I see.
It's really
I see, I
insane.
see.
And so all of them go to Pristina to study because that's where the big
university
universities
is,
are. It's
yeah.
the capital.
Makes
And
sense.
Pristina is a poppin' city.
Yeah.
Like there's nightlife, there's clubs, there's bars, there's hookah lounges, everything that you could
Yeah,
ever
bro. Now I
want.
want to pop in. What
Bro,
the heck?
Pristina is. I did not expect this at all. And
Really? Wow.
also, I was walking through certain neighborhoods, and I was like, "This feels like Fenway in Boston." Like,
Really?
bro, there was brick buildings, super modern.
Dang,
Like,
interesting.
obviously, there's historic neighborhoods as well.
Yeah.
But basically, they built this
Huh.
whole second neighborhood. I think it's on the southeast side. I
Right.
forget the name of it.
Okay.
Yeah, they built like a whole second neighborhood that used to be basically nothing.
Okay.
They have like modern ass shopping malls.
Huh.
They have, I mean, you would never expect this.
Right.
I guess like because when we hear about Kosovo in the news in the US, it's like Kosovo and Serbia, tensions rising again, like this kind
Right.
of stuff.
And
but-
so you put it in with a lot of different conflictual areas, and you don't,
Yeah.
and so you don't anticipate the modernness, like
Yeah.
contemporaries.
That being said, like Pristina was the only place in the country that felt like that.
Okay,
Like
yeah,
everywhere
yeah,
else
yeah.
definitely felt much more like what you think of when you go to the Balkans. But Pristina, I mean,
Interesting.
the title of my video from there is Pristina, Kosovo shocked me because it really did.
because it actually
Like,
shocked you.
It was really just a very like jumping place.
Right. You're
Which is,
popping off.
which is cool.
Okay.
Now one reason why there's so much investment in Pristina is
Yeah.
because, well, during the war, like so many people had to flee the country, And so now they've gone abroad to Western Europe, the US, etc. And now a lot of those people are like funding projects in Kosovo. So it's obviously like it's an interesting situation.
Right. But it's, I mean, I guess it's a good thing that they're giving back and stuff like that.
It's very good that they're giving back.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was cool. I made a video out of that. And then as I was there, I was like, all right, what else do I want to see in this country? Because I had to go somewhere else after 2 days. I decided I'm going to come back to Pristina at the end because that's where my flight is from.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go down south. I'm going to see the other cities. The 3 big cities are Pristina, Prizren, and Peja, all with P.
Nice.
And so the second day I decided to go to Prizren, which is the second city I went to.
Yeah.
And that, it's like an hour bus ride. It's a tiny ass country.
Okay.
And that city is the most like diverse in the sense of like the Balkans. Like it had a big Bosniak community. It had a Turkish community and like even some Serbs as well.
Okay.
And Albanians, of course, which is the majority.
Isn't Dua Lipa from Kosovo?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, her parents are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's Albanian. She performed like a month before I went there.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Only you got to see that next time.
So anyways, so we were in I pull up to Prizren and I'm like, what am I going to do in this city? I wanted to make a video.
Yeah.
And the previous video that I had made, it was interesting in that it showed just how modern the city of Pristina was, and I got to talk to like a local guy, which was cool. But then I was like, you know what, I really need to show some like crazy shit of this country. Like I know that there's a lot here, a lot of stories that aren't being told.
Right.
Everyone in the US or in the West, if they even know what Kosovo is, they just think of conflict.
Yeah, they don't have any positive connection to it.
And so hydration is key.
It is.
So I started doing some research and I look into like, you know, like what is the ethnic breakdown of Kosovo? I was looking into a bunch of stuff and I found that it's, you know, like 95% Albanians or 93, whatever.
Yeah.
And then in the north you have like the Serb population, like 6 to 8%.
Okay.
But then there's this anomaly in the southeast of the country, just to the east of Prizren in the mountains.
Okay.
Where you have communities that are Serb and some that are Bosniak. And so,
but they're close to each other.
Yeah, and I mean they kind of like, you go up into this valley, and then you'll hit like a couple Bosniak villages and then a couple Serb villages.
Interesting.
And I'm not going to go into the entire issue of Balkan ethnicity in this podcast, but it is very interesting and it deserves like its own podcast sometime.
Okay, can you give us the abridged?
Yeah. And now one thing is like when I talked about this in the beginning of the video that I made, like a lot of people were like, yo, like this is kind of a dumbed down like version, like it's way more complex than this, and it is.
It always is.
I'm not claiming to be an expert on
we're
inter-ethnic dynamics of the Balkans.
We're both stupid people and take our thoughts with a whole handful of salt.
Yes, many salts. I mean, I've been to this region a few times. I've talked to some people. I'm just kind of regurgitating what I've read, what I've talked about. Like, this is my experience essentially,
as we do.
And so basically you have this really interesting dynamic in the Balkans because obviously you learn about the Great Schism, and for most people they either don't know what that is or it's like some word that they heard in 6th grade social studies. Like that was what it was for me, but like I couldn't tell you what it meant.
Okay.
So basically around the year 1000 plus or minus like 200 years, I don't know the exact date.
Okay.
Like 1000 AD, you have the Great Schism of the church, of the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church.
Okay.
So you have more in like Russia in the east, you have this Orthodox religion that starts, and then the West stays Catholic. And you have this great divide down like Europe, you know,
basically becomes like, West and Eastern Europe,
so like Russia, Greece, Serbia, Ukraine, like this is mostly Orthodox.
Yeah.
And so that's where that comes from, is the Great Schism.
Dang.
Now, what was interesting is that the line of the Great Schism went right through the Balkans.
Oh.
So, like, some of it was on the east, some
so that
was on the
must
west.
have cooked the Balkans.
Yeah, so, we're just getting started because you have, like, Croatia, for example.
Okay.
Like, if you look at the former Yugoslav countries that speak that language, that Serbo-Croatian, Bosnian, Montenegrin, whatever language.
Right.
The Croats are Catholic.
Okay.
And the Serbs are Orthodox to this day.
Okay.
So they just happened to fall right on the line of that schism.
Right.
The line went right through Bosnia. Like, just cut that shit right in half.
Interesting.
And so that's partially why So then there was this own Bosnian church that existed in like the 1200s and 1300s, but very weak, like not very centrally powerful. It was susceptible to new religions coming in, is basically what the case was. And then in like the 14th, 15th centuries, the Ottomans come in, and they take over the Balkans. Influence. And so they start spreading Islam, and they basically say, if you guys convert to Islam, then you pay less taxes. And so obviously in regions like Serbia and Croatia wasn't a part of the Ottoman Empire. Certain parts of it were like, traded back and forth, but Serbia was under Ottoman control for some time, and they were less susceptible because they had like this strong foundation of the Orthodox Church, and then you had the Catholic Church in other regions. But the Bosnian Church was very weak, and so they were more susceptible to being influenced by other religions. And they were like, less taxes, like shit. I'll change my religion. I don't give a shit.
Let's get it popping,
I'm
bro.
praying to this God.
What do you mean? What do you mean? I minimize my tax burden? Light work. It's very American of them, honestly.
Yeah. We should be proud. We should look.
Honestly, bro, I'm sure an eagle like screeched as they signed the deal and shook hands.
So that's why you have a lot of Muslim population in Bosnia and in Kosovo and in Albania. Like those were the three big regions where Islam was successful. With the Albanians and with the Bosniaks. Now at the time they were not Bosniaks, Serbs, who then converted to Islam. So those people who converted were in Bosnia, because you have to think of it outside of the context of our present national borders, similar to how like Nigeria is. Those borders were not drawn by anyone who had any interest
anyone
in
who had any investment in anything besides where the tobacco is being grown.
Exactly.
And where the chocolate was coming from.
Basically you have this mix now of
two different types
Catholicism,
of Christianity.
Orthodox and Islam. And of course there was other religions, and there was pagan
or indigenous or whatever.
There was like Roma people as well who have their own beliefs. But so the super complex dynamic. And time passes. So now we get to the Ottoman Empire is gone and everything, and you just have certain towns where there's pockets of Islam, and then also, of course, you have like the linguistic divides as well. And it's not just like you can draw a line and inside this line there's like only Albanian people. It's just mixed. Like one town will speak Albanian, one town will speak, Bosnian, one town is like Serb, whatever. And so essentially what it means, the term Bosniak didn't exist until like 1990 when they wanted to create their own nation for themselves. In Yugoslavian times, they were called just Muslims, was the ethnic group name. So it's it's kind of like a construct, but essentially the term Bosniak means someone who speaks that language, that Slavic language of Serbian or Bosnian, and is Muslim. And then if you speak that language and you're Orthodox, then you're Serb. If you speak that language and you're Catholic, then you're a Croat. And that's not 100% a rule. There's also like the Gorani people who speak that language and they're Muslim, and I don't know. A
lot of shenanigans taking place.
A lot of shenanigans. This is again just a rough outline of what's going on. And then you have the Albanians who are in Kosovo. They're almost all Muslim. In Albania, there's some Catholics as well.
Interesting. I know that there's a lot, and this is probably, I don't know if you know anything about this, but Albania and Greece. There's apparently a lot of shenanigans between. I think a lot of countries don't like the Albanians for some reason. I don't know why that is.
Well, the Serbs and Albanians have fought over territory, including Kosovo, for a long time. And Greece and Serbia are very close allies because they share that Orthodox religion.
Right. Okay.
So I don't know if there's more to it than that, but that would be my best.
That's fair.
Okay. So anyway, so that's kind of the dynamic that I'm walking into now in Kosovo.
In Kosovo.
And I'm like, all right, so it's like 93% Albanian Muslims, mostly Muslims. It's like 6% Serbs, but that leaves like 1 or 2% left over. And so in Kosovo, a country of like 2 million people, there's 25,000 Muslim Slavic speaking people, which are nowadays termed Bosniak. Which is again like a recent word, but essentially they live in small neighborhoods in certain cities or like in random villages. And I'm like, I want to go explore one of these villages. It's like the biggest minority, it's the biggest minority group other than the Serbs and Albanians in Kosovo. And like, obviously everyone talks about the conflict between the Albanians and the Serbs. But what about these Bosniaks, right? And interestingly enough, during the war, like they were kind of in the middle of the other two groups because they had the language of the Serbs, but they had the religion of the Albanians.
Right.
But I just saw that there was a couple towns in the mountains where they had Bosnian language schools.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm going up there. I'm just going to see what's good. And there's a couple like little villages, right? So there's this village called Planjane. And I asked the hostel guy how to get there. He's like, bro, I have no idea. So
he's like, Godspeed, bro.
Just walk over there. There's some buses. Ask them. So I hop on a bus, and it's a van, really. And it takes me up through this windy road. It's so beautiful. Like, the natural beauty is great. There's waterfalls and, like, cliffs. Go up into this valley, and I get to this town called Rečane, which also was a Bosniak town, but I didn't know it at the time.
Okay.
So I had learned like 15 words of Albanian at this point. I learned how to say things like, where's the bathroom? Do you have internet? Like, can I don't even know. I don't think I knew how to say, can I charge my phone? But I learned how to say, like, how do I go to, and then blank.
Place name.
And so I said, how do I go to Planjane? And he kind of like, we struggled to communicate, and he's like, walk over to the mosque and then take the van up.
Okay.
And then I think he asked me like where I was from or something. And I was like, America, where are you from? Or somehow we got to the point where we were speaking Bosnian to each other. Yeah. And he spoke Bosnian, and I was like, oh, great. Like our first Kosovo Bosniak, right? Like, we're speaking with this guy. I was like, you guys all speak Bosnian? He was like, yeah, here everyone speaks Bosnian, which is crazy because I had just come from a major city where like everyone speaks Albanian.
Right.
Everything's in Albanian. The signs are in Albanian.
Yeah.
And then you come up here and the signs are in 2 languages.
Right.
That's not true. Some of the street signs in the cities are also in Serbian, Bosnian.
Okay.
Nonetheless, like, I just went from this in the same country, like just going up a valley
changes the whole dynamic
everything
of the
and they have
culture.
the Bosniak ethnic flag is flying from a flagpole that I had only ever seen in Bosnia.
Flag.
Yeah, because
so it's different from the political flag of like Bosnia.
Yeah, because you have the flag of Bosnia and Herzegovina, but then you also have like the Serb flag of Bosnia. You have the
even like the current countries are still being cut up in a political way that doesn't necessarily reflect the cultural.
We could do a whole podcast just on the political boundaries of Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Wait, okay. Carry on.
So I pull up to this town and I see another guy, and he's just walking down the street. It's like older guy. And I'm like, hey, how do I get to Planjane? Well, first I said, do you speak Bosnian? He's like, yes. And then I was like, how do I get to Planjane? And then he's like, oh, you can like walk up this way, or you can like see this bus, whatever. So we start walking like somewhere. And then I was like, how's life here? Whatever. And you can tell I'm not from there. And he's like, where are you from? And I was like, America. And he's like shocked. And then he sees his friend who's walking by. And so then he introduced me to his friend, and he's like, oh, this guy's going to Planjane. You can go with him. So we start walking together, and we're talking, whatever, and he's such a nice guy, and he doesn't care at all that I'm filming. I'm like, do you mind if I have this? And he's like, no. I'm like, I just want to show my friends how beautiful your place is.
Yeah.
So we start walking together, and he's asking me questions just as much as I'm asking him questions.
So you're just having a full conversation.
The most just genuine conversation.
Oh, that's awesome.
Even if I wasn't filming, like I would have been just having a blast, like just seeing how this guy lives his life and what life is like for this random minority in this already like kind of oppressed place that has gone through just turmoil for the last however many years.
Interesting.
And it was just a beautiful time. Like we start walking, this younger guy pulls up in a car, and who obviously knows this guy. Yeah. And he picks us up, drives us up into the town, which thank God, because we had to walk up this giant ass hill in the blazing heat. And then we get to the town, and then we just start walking through his town, and now he's showing me around. He's like, this is the mosque. This is where the Serbs used to go to church. Right. And I was asking him if there was problems between the Serbs and the Bosniaks and the Albanians, and he's like, no, there was never problems here. And I was like, oh, interesting. Like, I was like, even during the war, and he was like, no, not here. And I was like, wow, that's really cool.
That's interesting.
And I was just like, yeah, I mean, in the media in the US, we just see the conflict, and that's it.
It's going crazy.
And it was just so like humanizing to
see
all
like
this.
how are the people really there? Because like even it's like you always think about it like how was Japan during World War II? It's like people still were going and getting bread at for breakfast. You know, like they're going to the store and getting eggs while people were nose diving into ships. So it's like that is so interesting to see the concept like that.
And I mean, then we get to this fork in the road, and he's like, well, this is where I live. And I'm just like, okay. And he's like, do you want coffee?
I was like, I thought you'd never ask.
And I was like, yeah, I'll take some coffee. So we go into his house, and
so sick.
I think it was his daughter-in-law and his granddaughters were in there.
Okay.
And we talked to them for a little bit, like asked them like how school was, because one of them was like 15, she wanted to be a doctor.
Oh wow.
The other one was like younger.
Right.
And then the mom was like pretty nice, and
Cool.
yeah, we just talked for a while. Like it was so nice that they let me into their house.
Yeah.
And made me Bosnian coffee.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Which was great. And then we walked around up into the mountains a little bit.
Right.
And I was like, "Have you climbed any of these mountains? Because these are some sizable ass mountains." And he was like, "Oh, I've climbed all of them."
Yeah, easy.
He's like, "Do you know what a?" He was like, "Do you know what a medved is?" And I didn't know the word medved at the time. Like, no, what's that? And he was like, medved, like grizzly. And I was like, oh, like a bear? And he was like, yeah. He was like, there's a lot of them around here. And I was like, should we be careful? And he was like, no, they only come out at night. He was
like, oh, in that case.
He was like just being goofy, and he was just such a nice guy. He introduced me to some of his friends. Every time we would encounter someone on the street, he would like stop them and be like, hello, like this guy's from American. He would say literally, this is my friend Benjamin from America. He wanted to see how our life is here. It was just the most like,
that's like, so it's like a perfect interaction.
Like I could not have possibly asked for a better interaction.
Yeah.
And I happen to have it all on camera.
Yeah. So it all like that's pretty awesome that it worked out like that.
So yeah, that is to this day by far the best video I've ever made.
Wow.
And you know, obviously like the video could be better. Like there, you know, I was bouncing a little bit with the camera sometimes, and like I didn't get the best shots, but like
so that's the process.
I've never made anything like that. And yeah, I mean it has the most views on my channel too.
Yeah.
Like,
so that's the video that really popped off.
That was a video that really popped off. It just hit 25K views the other day.
Wow. Yeah. Yo, shout out to both Ben and his
Rapid.
and what's his name?
Rapid.
Yo,
Rapid.
That's that. Yeah, it's impressive because like when the video first came out, I was like, bro, is that it? Did he do it? Is this it?
Yeah, I mean,
like that's so. It's really it was amazing to see it in action.
Yeah.
And it was also cool because like at the time, like even as it stands, I'm still like, damn. I've done some like a little bit of solo traveling, but like not anywhere near what you're doing, and so it's like impressive to me, and like makes me go like, damn, bro, like it's wild that you're just out here in places that like definitely I've seen and been like, yo, these are like rough and like crazy locations. But it's like, no, like, yeah, you get there and you just see the humanity and peace of everything. Like, yeah.
I've never seen a more peaceful place than that village, Planyane. So yeah, go if you watch this and you're interested in watching my channel, like, go and watch that video.
The link is pinned in the chat, so you know, please check it out. He has a lot of great videos and a lot of locations, even more than we've talked about.
Yeah. Also, you know, made a couple in Lebanon.
Yeah.
You know, Bosnia, mostly Balkan based. That's definitely where I have the most interest.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
yeah, so it's cool. It's crazy.
That's kind of the story of my YouTube channel.
Yeah, in a couple words.
In a couple words. In a couple 100,000 words.
A couple 100,000 words.
Can we take a potty break?
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna take a short break, and then I'm going to, we'll be back in a little bit, and then we'll read the comments when we get back. What I'm gonna do real quick is I'm gonna actually get rid of a couple of these things. I just want to so that they don't. Oh. Yeah. Just because I realize that this is going to mess up the actual YouTube video if all these things come up on the screen. I'm just going to not have them on the screen. Okay. Anyway, here we are. Here we are back in one piece, and believe it or not. And we've taken a quick stab at the story of Bend the Rules. Now I want to go beyond the story. I want to talk a little bit, you know, while I still have you here. You know, I know you're a busy man. You know, you have places to be, people to see. But I like something that I think is like the most interesting thing, because you know me, I'm a I don't know, I do a lot of stuff with like computer science, even on this channel and Twitch. There's a lot of programming and stuff. And I think a big part of programming is like language, right? Because it's like what happens in in programming is that we try to figure out how to communicate with the computer, and that in the way that then there's so many different types of languages, because there's so many different types of ways to organize your thoughts in order to communicate with the computer, whether it's for compiling code on the back end, for organizing visual things on the front end. And I want to know, like, what do you think about, I don't know, like we can just talk about this generally, but like, do you feel like that also relates to spoken languages? Because it's like I've heard about things like where like there's a culture that like people talk about direction in like north, south, west, and east, and like that makes it so they're really good with cardinal directions or something. And like how that works. Like, what do you think about stuff like?
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes back to, I kind of mentioned it earlier about how whether language affects culture or culture affects language.
Okay.
And I really think it's both. I mean, I think probably culture affects language more than vice versa.
Like, I kind of feel like this isn't as much of a chicken and egg problem, just because it feels like culture probably came first, right?
Yeah,
like some like abstract way.
Maybe not like first. I don't know. But what I will say is like I think like, you know, if we're doing something and we have some kind of experience that's recurring.
Yeah.
It's not just like a one-time thing. It's something that we're gonna want to have a name for. So
okay,
in that way,
that's a good point.
In that way, like it's definitely culture influencing language.
Right.
But then at the same time, like I was just thinking of an example of this earlier. Maybe it'll come to mind. But there's also ways that the English language restricts us and that it empowers us.
Okay.
Like the English language is very powerful in communicating a lot of things in a few words.
Okay. Interesting.
The Arabic language is very good at having a lot of very specific adjectives.
Okay.
So they can express differences between like beautiful and like lovely, and they have like a whole like spectrum in there. Like,
so it's kind of like this is something that I thought of, is just like how like, you know, in English you can describe things, but you can't necessarily describe the feeling of when you get up and open the window and you get the sun comes on your face and there's a warm breeze. And it's like that can be put into a word in like German or in something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Where like there's that notion of this thing in as an idea of an experience can be described in English, but it can be put forth like in a very simple way in another language.
Yeah, I think I don't speak Chinese at all, but I think that's something that Chinese does well. Is like they'll have characters, or they'll put a couple characters together, and then that makes the
it's a language. I feel like it's a type of language that I just don't even have any concept of at all.
Yeah,
it's like
shout out to anyone who speaks Chinese, like especially if you've learned it as a second
people
language.
People just remix kanji. Like it's like the way that like they'll just be like, yeah, I'd write like their name will be like, obviously it's not someone's name, but it'll be like, my name is Jacob, but I write the kanji with squirrel, house, and bird, because that's how I feel like writing it. And then somebody else is like, oh yeah, my name is Jacob too, but I write it with water, like turtle, and like table. And you're like, okay, it's just like I don't understand how that works, and obviously I've bastardized it completely. But it's like this that ability to like have so much variability just on the way you might say the same exact thing, just depending on what kanji you want to use to describe it, is interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, I do think that there are ways where, like, I think that one aspect of Mandarin, is that it's very direct. Like, I think that, and maybe I'm wrong, like I said, I don't speak it, this is just what I've heard.
I can't fact check you.
Is that you can just use a few characters or syllables to kind of describe a whole situation.
Okay.
Whereas in English, like,
very verbose.
Yeah, it's more verbose. There's more like animation. Not sure if that's, I don't know. That's kind of the sense I'm getting. I maybe I should speak on languages that I actually speak.
That's fair.
But yeah, I mean, like I was saying in French earlier, like it's very conducive to like wordplay.
Yeah.
Because that has a lot of annoying but similar sounds. Like so many different sounds, and they're quite similar. So you can really like kind of play around with the sounds a little bit.
What impact do you think that has on the culture?
I mean, I think that French and English are two languages that have a very big like hip hop scene. I think that's one interesting thing about both of those languages. Whereas Italian, there is a lot of Italian rap, but obviously like Italian poetry is like, it has some amazing examples. But I think it's that French and English are much more conducive to like rapping specifically, like the spoken word, because you have a lot of short words. In Italian, it's very rare to have one syllable words.
Yeah, okay.
There's always more like vowels at the end, so you can rhyme things.
But you're going to have at least two syllables a lot of the time.
It's a little bit less creative because you have so many small words in English and French, especially English, really, because English has a lot of small words and there's no like pattern to how you pronounce
like
things.
there's no, and so you can twist words and people will still get it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and so your pronunciation can be really off, but people are like, okay, yeah, that's what that is.
And also you have this because there's no patterns, like bomb, tomb, and comb are all spelled the same, but they're all pronounced differently. Like, for example, in Italian, you have like adjectives, or like in French, for example, like if something ends in like et, it's like a smaller, cuter version of the thing, right?
Right.
Like I don't know.
Yeah,
whatever. So basically in English there's less of that. There's less standardization. There's words from Germanic languages and from Romance languages. And so in, say, Italian, where like all of the diminutive words, like the smaller words, end in like el or inno, like if you're rhyming those words, you're rhyming similar things. But in English, because like there's no scheme to the rhyming, you can create your own rhyme schemes and rhyme literally anything with literally anything else. So it's
like orange, Dorhinge.
Yeah.
My favorite rapper. Shout out to Eminem. No, I'm joking.
So I think that because there's no like standardization of pronunciation in English, it leads to the ability to make these cool like rhyme schemes, and I think that's part of why there's such a rich like hip hop culture in English.
So I think that makes a lot of sense. I was thinking about like what do you think? Because I was like, like what is it? So they have wordplay. I was like, what is something I know about French people, or not French people, but like something notable is that there's like a lot of like I feel like there's a lot of French and English philosophers as well. I don't know, a lot of people who are like who participate in this like in logic. You know what I'm saying? And like I don't know, maybe not like I know there's a lot of French philosophers, but
the Germans too.
Yeah, and I was thinking the Germans as well.
They have a very rigid language with a lot of. You have to be very on point with the grammar.
Okay,
I don't know how much of a relation that has.
That's true. That might be different.
Sure.
But even in French, I mean, there can be in some cases a rigidity, but maybe that's only in like maybe
French has a lot of rules and they're all very complicated.
But people don't follow them,
and there's always exceptions. Like, I think that's the thing about French is like there's so many rules, and Sal, who's our friend who lives in Paris, talks about this. There's so many rules, but nobody follows them. I think the French language is kind of similar. Like there's all these rules and grammar and all this shit, and you usually have to follow them, except when you don't. And it's completely arbitrary.
Like, that's just because like the language just keeps tacking on extra.
English just doesn't have rules, which is nice.
Yeah, English,
and I think that's why English is so powerful as a language.
Is because it has no rules. It's just. It's funny because it's like people get like, and this is like when we were in Switzerland, we had tandems. Like I don't know how your tandems would go, but I would just be like, what you said just doesn't sound right. Like it's not even like there's a rule that I can use to tell you, it's not like every word is like E after I after E or whatever the fuck it is.
I think part of that is just because our education system doesn't place emphasis on the English language at all. Like the Italians, it's wild. If you're Italian, you most likely know the name of every tense, like the different parts of speech and all this stuff. Like I didn't know what a preposition was until I started learning other languages.
Okay,
I can use prepositions all the time, but
you just don't know what it is.
But, like if you said that, I wouldn't know.
You just be like, okay, but then they're like, oh yeah, this is what it is in your language. So yeah, like being aware of the grammar and like I think that getting that awareness of like the parts of speech also makes it so you can become very aware of what those are in other languages and then how to employ them yourself and like pick those out to learn the language as well, which you're pretty good at learning languages as well.
It's something I've dedicated time to.
Yeah. What would you say is like the biggest key thing that you've like that has helped with learning? Like say you just start a language, you're like, okay, I need to learn to communicate in some amount of time.
Consistency is key. Okay. And that's with anything in life, but like seriously, like
it's all about that.
You can go online and find hundreds of different methods of learning languages.
You can Duolingo all you want.
You can find so many different ways, but like just do it every day. Like just take 5 to 10 minutes every day at the very least. Like you also are going to want to have some days where you're speaking for longer periods of time.
Right.
But just make sure you're engaging with it every single day. When I was in Lausanne the first year, I was basically in this weird situation during lockdown where I would see my friends maybe once or twice a week.
Okay.
And with them, I would speak, like I had Italian friends and Mexican friends. So I would speak like Spanish or Italian for like 1 to 2 hours per week, a full 1 hour conversation.
Yeah.
And then French, I was speaking 5 to 10 minutes per day with the people that I lived with. And I wasn't speaking it beyond that, but I would just have these little cordial conversations. But my French was so much more fluent than the other two languages because I was using it every single day. And got a bug? Oh, you got him, bro. You got him. But because I was using the French every single day, it was very much something that I was just used to like getting into and getting out of.
Yeah.
Because when you're speaking a foreign language,
warm yourself up.
You have to shift your mind to thinking in that language.
Yeah.
And you do the quicker that you can jump back into that,
the better it is for you. Yeah.
So yeah, just consistency is key. I think that you need to assess what your goal is in the language and train for that. So I can't just say the best way to learn a language is blank. If you want to learn how to speak a language when you go and travel to a country, then you need to speak the language. Like that's it. You need to practice speaking the language. If you are trying to go to Mexico or Spain and you want to speak Spanish there with the people, then going on Duolingo every single day, like, okay, it might help you read some signs when you're there, which is good. Like, that's positive.
Better than nothing, but my goodness, will you get cooked the first time you try to speak to anybody?
You try to say something and that someone speaks to you, you're going to get cooked. Like,
instantaneously.
You need to make sure that if your goal is to speak the language and be able to get around, first of all, know that when traveling, you don't have to speak a language fluently to get around.
Like, not at all.
I was in Slovenia a couple weeks ago, and Slovenian is very similar to Bosnian.
Yeah.
Like, they're very closely related languages, not the same language.
Okay.
To the degree where maybe kind of like Spanish and Portuguese, where if two people are speaking slowly, they can get most of it.
Yeah.
Maybe more like Spanish and Italian.
Okay.
And so speaking some Bosnian, I went there, and at first I was like, should I maybe speak English to them? I don't know. But what I would do is just every time I was going to go into a situation and say, like, okay, I need to fill my water bottle. Okay, like I know how to say I know how to say water. I need to look up the verb to fill. And like luckily it's almost the same as in Bosnian. They change a couple letters.
Okay.
So you go into those situations knowing which words you need. Download the Google Translate for the dictionary for whatever country
that's a big brain play.
And so then then you can ask like, hey, can you please fill this for me? And then also, can I charge my phone? Like, you just need to know these basic sentences. And so I was able to get around Slovenia, just like bastardizing Bosnian and speaking like, I don't know, I maybe learned 50 words of Slovenian
the whole time. Yeah.
So anyways, if your goal is to speak in a country, then the best way that you can learn to do that is to speak.
Yeah, to speak the language.
You can find someone in your local area. If it's Spanish and you live in the U.S., then you can find someone who speaks Spanish.
Right.
There's Spanish speakers in many places. If it's a more niche language, then you might want to find someone on like Reddit has a subreddit for finding language exchanges.
Yeah,
there's apps if you want to pay called italki where you can pay someone a few bucks an hour to speak with you.
That's nice.
And I really think that it comes down to just making sure that you're getting that training in. And then you obviously can't speak every day unless you are lucky enough to be in that situation.
Machine.
But make sure you're doing something every day.
To like improve.
Listening as well is so important.
Get those podcasts, get those language, like those
YouTube
words out.
YouTube
videos are really good. But I think also I think actually more than anything that you can do is finding somebody who you can be friends with who speaks the language, because it's like the amount you can learn talking to somebody who speaks the language fluently or is its mother language is astronomically higher than the speed, because it's like the iteration, because it's like, right, you speak, you learn something, then you put it back out into the world and you get feedback. Oh, did I say that right? Did they understand me? Like, and then did I write it correctly? Was I able to communicate? Which is your whole goal, is to communicate. So could I do that? And it's like, then you might every once in a while when you talk to someone, you get that feedback. But then it's like
instant feedback.
Yeah, you get the instant feedback, but it might not be, because you might spend weeks just practicing listening, and then you actually get into some random interaction with some Goomba on the streets in Paris, and you get instantly cooked. You didn't hear anything, and he walked past you, and you're like, damn, so what am I doing wrong? And the YouTube videos won't tell you, the thing won't tell you, and the guy might just be like, who the fuck was this guy? And just walk past you. And so you get cooked, and you might get the feedback that you fucked up, but not that you're actually doing better. But somebody sits down and says, bro, what did you just say to me? And you're like, oh shit, what did I do? He's like, bro, you said such and such. you mean this? And you're like, oh yeah, that is what I meant. It's like, yeah, but you said it completely wrong. And then you're able to learn so quickly because it's like you have like it's like speaking French with ChatGPT, except it's a real person.
Yeah. Honestly, with ChatGPT nowadays,
yeah, I guess maybe
you can have full conversations with ChatGPT. I think writing is also important in the language if you want to speak, just because it helps you visualize. I mean, you don't have to do it all the time, but it is something that helps when you do it. But yeah, I mean, what it comes down to, like I said, consistency.
Right.
Find your goal and then just work towards that goal every day. If your goal is to write a paragraph or an essay in some language, then start by writing a simple sentence. I think also the last thing I'll say on this is as you're starting to learn any language, almost, unless it's for some super specific thing, almost every interaction that you're going to have with a real human, you're going to talk about yourself and you're going to ask people about themselves. So write a little script, and you can ideally do this with a friend. If not, you can try using Google Translate or ChatGPT or something.
Yeah.
And write down, hello, my name is blank. I study blank. I do this for work. I am from blank. Like, just the basic things, and then learn how to ask someone else that, because that's the basis of every social interaction that you have with someone.
That's fair.
So start there, and then you'll know how to use those words for the future, and then you start piecing words together, and that's how you can all of a sudden have a conversation.
All right. That's some really really good advice from our very own language. How many languages do you know right now?
I always hate getting this question because it's like,
give me the ones where you can go into a city and, like, I don't know, like
get
around, and people they'll still be like, oh, you're American, but they'll be like, wow, that's pretty good for an American.
Yeah. Pretty good for an American. Yeah. Like, anyways, I can speak English pretty well. Like, I'm still struggling sometimes.
Yeah. That one's hard for me
too. Some bullshit. Obviously, French.
Oui, on peut parler français.
Italiano as well. That's one that I haven't spoken too much recently, but I'll always have a special place for it in my heart. Yeah.
Spanish
is a great one.
Nice.
Bosnian, obviously.
You pretty well
picked
Bosnian.
It up over the years.
Yeah.
That's one language that if I really want to, like, master one language in my life, I would love to master that for no reason, really, because it's like, why would I need to master that? But it's just so fun. It's a fun language to speak.
Yeah.
I'm also learning Lebanese Arabic. I've taken kind of a break since the last time I went to Lebanon, but I could goof around in Arabic and, like, order food and, whatever.
The classics, yeah.
And then
make sure you put the microphone closer.
Microphone is not closer. And then other than that, I think that's about it. Like, Portuguese, like, I can
you're
sort of form
there,
sentences, and maybe I can read Portuguese pretty well, but I would not say like
I mean, for me, it's like really just like, honestly, English and French are languages. Like English, obviously, it's English. French, I can definitely do all, like, the general things, and, like, I can, like, get through conversations and communicate with people on, like, a little bit of a deeper level, talk about more important topics than just where I am and where I need to go. And then Spanish is kind of just like where I am and where I need to go.
Yeah.
And then I guess Yoruba is kind of like a weird language because it's like half native, half I don't know the words for certain things, but then other things it's just automatic to me where I just pick it out. I don't translate it to English. I think my French listening is just randomly getting really good. I've noticed whenever I listen to a podcast or anything like that, like it's just become really easy.
Well, that's the key. You're listening,
which is nice.
Consistency
is key.
Yeah.
So
I mean, what would you say your comprehension level is in Yoruba? Can you understand everything?
It's like I feel like a lot of times I'll say that I feel like I can understand like a good like 80-85% of what people say, but then it's like not always can I like. It's like I'll get what they're telling me, but I can't like sometimes pick out which word means what, which is like a weird thing. I don't know if that's like I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
like it's like I don't know.
I mean, your brain is picking it up in the moment,
right? And then like I guess I'm missing it. I don't know, but it's like it's an interesting thing. I don't know. I think but I'm able to kind of like communicate on like a pretty basic level, understand at a pretty high level. And then but I think that if I was to go, I think what I would love to do is just go and live in Nigeria for a month or two and just speak with my cousins like that guy, and improve and get a lot better at Yoruba, but also Pidgin English. I think being able to speak Pidgin would be an excellent thing, because I feel like you can't really get around Nigeria effectively without it.
You want to explain what that is for?
Yes. So in many places in the world, Nigeria being one of them, there's a way that languages come together, and that usually is by the people who speak a language starting by trying to communicate. They have their native language, and then another language comes in, and that language is something like English or French in other parts of the world, and the children, and so people who are brought up understanding Yoruba will now have to learn English because of colonization and other things, and so they start to incorporate English and Yoruba together into their everyday vernacular. But then what happens is that they basically so both languages kind of come together into a new thing that's it's like a pidgin. And so in this case, it's honestly, Nigerian pidgin is it's English that uses honestly, in many ways, uses a Yoruba cadence. Or somebody say I day is just I'm here, or yeah, or
I day
I day DEY, or how you day is
how you day.
How are you doing? Yeah. So it's which is the same thing as I day, and then so how you day? I day, and I'm here. Yeah, which is
how you day,
or I don't know. I feet someone, and it's the same thing that you say. I think it's similar to a Jamaican patois or something like that. But people use some of the same
because it's different from a Creole.
Yeah. So and so then going beyond a pidgin, and obviously I'm not a language scientist or something like that. I don't understand the linguistics. I'm not Noam Chomsky, but what I can say. What I can say is that a Creole is basically when a pidgin basically is picked up and I don't know, the word is normalized, but it's given grammar. Like a pidgin gets formal grammar, so it's formalized. It's formalized by the children of the pidgin speakers. So people who are basically learning English while being native indigenous language speakers, in this case Yoruba, they eventually turn Yoruba and English into a grammatical language. Which I'm wondering, what defines a language as grammatical? Can I just say this is my grammar and then we communicate and that's fine?
Maybe it's an agreed upon standard. I have no idea.
Oh yeah, that might be it. Honestly, it might just be an agreed upon standard, because it's just I guess it's if people are just randomly speaking a language, okay, but then someone makes a dictionary and they're we did it. I guess all these things are just some shenanigans. But interesting. I don't know. I guess you also, it seems something I've thought about a lot too is how does because for me I feel there's a very interesting relationship between religion and culture as well. And you talked about the schism, and for me I think, and this is just my musings in my room while I'm not streaming on Twitch, I'm I feel a group of people exists in a place, right? And then there's the conditions and circumstances of that place, right? They have food and they have water. They have their bears and other things like that, and then they make a culture around navigating that, right? And then they kind of immortalize their rule set of navigating their day-to-day life into a religion that then modifies over time.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I've thought about. That's kind of my, because and then obviously religions then they start to grow beyond that. But I feel that's the place where they start. I don't know. I don't know if you've ever thought about that. If you have any thoughts.
No, to be honest, I gotta be honest. I don't think about religion too much, but it is. At least beyond the origin, origins of religion, I don't think about too much. I definitely have thought about how religions have impacted people, because that's another one where it's religion impacts culture too.
Yeah,
in the same way the culture impacts
religion.
So
it's I feel it's this cycle of stuff, especially as cultures mix, is that religions fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, in no uncertain terms.
But even to nowadays in the US, think about how much of like politics comes down to, especially on the more conservative side, like just religion based things, or at least their interpretation of religious based things from Christianity.
Okay, yeah.
So I think that's
true.
one way how religion has impacted US culture.
Right. It's just like and like okay, yeah. And like part of the reason why I was thinking about this was like partly for like Christianity in the United States is like I I don't know what class I was taking. But I took a class, it was either in college or it was like a high school class or a college class, where we talked about how like there's like something particular about the Protestant, the Calvinist, like Calvinist Christians, Protestant Christians, and how like working was very very integral to their day to day life,
Yeah.
and like how that informed their economy and made it so their the way that they managed they did their version of like I don't know if you want to say their version of their socioeconomic system was very capitalist, like very close to the way we see capitalism today, and so that's what created like this like allowed like the like industrial revolution or whatever in Britain or whatever.
Right.
Like it's like a big part of that is that the religion made people existentially motivated to be productive.
That's interesting.
Which is like, and like, so that's like a thing.
So
That's
do you
so
know
interesting
where
to me.
that desire and emphasis on work came from in the Calvinist
That's a
Protestantism?
good question.
Also,
I mean,
quickly, just shout out to Calvin. He was in Geneva for a while.
oh yeah, he was. He has a whole statue over there, and like, yeah, I think I don't know, like, but I will say that like I think part of it is that there's obviously like Christianity as it is in today, and like obviously you know my family is quite religious, so I have a little bit of thoughts on that just generally. But like it's like there's a big there has been over time, and I will say that obviously that shifts with the Protestant Revolution itself specifically. But it's like there's always been a big impact on good works getting you into heaven, like being a good person being defined by
Right.
ethical actions taken on earth, and like
the Catholics were trying to say like, yo, just pay money
yeah,
to
yeah,
the church
just
and you'll
donate
be good.
money to the church and, you're chilling.
Is
And
that what
then
Luther
yeah,
was saying?
and then
Like,
the
yo, like,
Protestants,
no,
like,
you
no,
gotta be
it's
a
like,
good person.
Yeah, you could be a good person. So like that's actively making decisions to be the person to have like this quote unquote personal like relationship with God, which is like I think a lot of the Protestant thing is it's like no longer the Pope that you talk to, you go and talk to Jesus directly, and like that's like the thing is that then now it becomes this thing where am I good enough? You know, because before it's like no, I just I write my check, I'm good, like we're chilling.
Yeah.
But it's like now it's like nah, bro, you have to actually every day you wake up and say, am I getting into heaven? Which you know is probably a little bit traumatic for the average human being to be able to be like kind of cast asunder, like to have to deal with like the harsh realities of just being alive. But it's like once again, of course, there's always going to be a way to recreate a safety net system, and that was done through incentivized through good work. And like I feel like in this situation, like that leads to basically people who are very highly motivated by what they're able to accomplish, what they're able to do. How do they set themselves ahead aside from other people? What good deeds do they accomplish? And I think that builds itself into this modern society really well. Like we're just
especially the one of the U.S., which
Yeah.
was largely founded by Protestants.
exactly,
so-
but Protestants that specifically came from England, right?
yeah.
In like this England and like these areas, because like I mean yeah, it's very interesting, especially like something like just as like yeah, it's like today like when somebody in the United States starts to get out of maybe like 15 or 16, you really start to think about like how can I be productive to society? How can I use my skills to improve things? When of course it's like at the end of the day, like who are you actually using your skills for? Who's actually gaining the benefit from that? No, it's not you. You're not gaining anything. You're actually just giving your value to like to corporations and people who are just taking that money and using it for yachts and cocaine. Which you know I respect both of those things, but like damn.
For those who watch Tolu's streams regularly, I'm just wondering, has there been anywhere he doesn't rant about capitalism?
Hey, you know, sometimes I don't get around to it, but you know, if given the opportunity, I will rant.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think that's an interesting take. Like, I guess I've always known that, like, yeah, Protestantism is valued like hard work and like
Yeah.
just put your head down and like go like do shit and produce.
Yeah.
But I guess I had never thought about that connection to like, okay, that is like America was
I
founded
think
by
it's like
those
a
people,
yeah.
and but
It's a
it makes
yeah.
definitely sense.
And I also think like that's like why like of course for all the homies who play civilization games like Civ 6, it's like there's a reason why like a religion victory is like a victory from a societal perspective. It's like when you like, and this is someone coming from, okay, so I obviously my family is very Christian, but like we come from a area where like my great grandparents like they had an indigenous religion of like Yoruba gods that they worshipped, right? And it's like the first thing that happens when the British came to colonize that area, and it's an area filled with a lot of like warriors. Like they're like they one, it's like the Yoruba have conquered and okay, they've conquered a lot of different places. There's Yoruba empires that have risen and fallen, and you know we'll have guests on in the future who will be able to talk about that topic. But it's like the first thing that happened is they pulled up with missionaries. They pull up with missionaries before anyone gets shot, before anyone gets stabbed, before anyone dies. The missionaries come first. Why? Because like something that I've begun to feel is that like religion is actually at the core. It's like it becomes like the core. Like even if it's not written down, it's like the everlasting history of like the lifeblood of a culture. Like and it doesn't have to be like gods, like it doesn't have to be that, it could be any type of spirituality that you take that helps you to solve existential questions and bring it into reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like and so that and then that religion informs your and like and the religion is itself, it's created by the culture, by the language, by the circumstances, but then it also is formed and then but it also then informs everything else.
Exactly.
And so like I think that like the reason that like people like the Yoruba tribe and all these different places and also all everywhere in the world is like the reason why these places collapse, like they collapse to the British and they or to the any colonizers or in any circumstance when war or anything happens to recreate places, except for the Mongols. The Mongols just pulled up. Besides them, it's like it's because you take away this like cultural bedrock of a religion from people and make them Christians or whatever, and they start losing their sense of identity and their sense of their history and what connects them to like the divine, which I think all human beings, even if they say that might be what's it called, contentious, but I think that there's a even if you're like an atheist, there's still a level of spirituality in you. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it doesn't have to be God. It doesn't have to be anything that's practical. Just be like, you saw like a little sign, like maybe one of your parents died like 10 years ago, and you saw like on the day that they died something like that reminded you of them, and it's like you get this little thing of something that's not logical, but you can't explain, but feels meaningful to you.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that human beings latch onto throughout history, far before we understood what special relativity was or what a black hole was. That's how we attached ourselves and tried to understand reality we couldn't explain. And I feel like once you get untethered from that through the lens of your own culture, you become a lot easier to like fuck with.
So obviously, culture and religion have influenced each other for millennia.
Yeah.
And now we're living in one of the least religious times ever. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of people who are religious in name. Like, for example, we both grew up going to church with our families, but I don't think either one of us would describe ourselves as belonging to any sort of religion right now.
Yeah.
So I think that even if you go to like Italy, which has historically been the epicenter of Catholicism throughout the world, you talk to young people and they're just not religious at all. It's like, they might have gone to church as kids, but I think in a lot of Europe especially, it's very much not a religious place. It's religious,
it's become very
in its culture,
secular and agnostic.
Yeah, no, I think if you go to South America, it's different. If you go to Latin America,
South America, Africa, very, very, very religious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So I'm just wondering, at least in the West, like where we live now, like how do you think that plays into today's society, given the fact that we're just not a religious society the way that we were 100 years ago.
Well, I would say is that we just our gods have changed, bro. Like that's it. Like I would say that we worship like the god is money. The god is
GPT.
yeah, literally the god is the AI. The thing that you look to when you're worried, right? When you become untethered from your society, from your community, and you want to still feel safe. You say, ChatGPT, how can I keep my job? And like that is like the thing that you're using to feel like you have control. It's like when the storms are going and people are dancing and praying and sacrificing their children and fucked up things like 4,000 years ago. What people do today is they go and get drunk and watch like a sporting event, and it's like I'm not deriding anything, but it's like people should be honest about like why does somebody like treat Friday night football or Monday night football like a religion? When people say that, they mean it. Like Sunday is for the NFL, yeah. You know, like so for me, it's like it's not like I think that like that it's just it goes into other things. Like plenty of people I know who are super atheists but will believe, and it's like, and I'm not like science can be believed because you can look at peer-reviewed articles, you can understand why things are the case and reproduce results or look at all these different perspectives on a scientific study, but people turn science, they turn engineering, they turn the CEOs of companies into living legends, living gods, people that they literally feel are above them, are fundamentally better than they are. You know what I'm saying? And then use them as they use them as a paragon for what they believe humanity should be. Whether that's Elon Musk, whether it's like Taylor Swift or something like that, or it's Kanye motherfucking West. People will take those people and turn them into gods and then literally worship them. Do the most insane, unreasonable things that you would only do if you felt like this being had like a supernatural power to improve your life. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And like I think that like that is like that the only thing that's happened is that we've just reorganized, you know, who it is we worship. Yeah. And like I don't even necessarily think that's necessarily a bad thing, because it's like we don't have a choice. It's like you have to worship, like it's like you have to worship something, you know, which is like, and like it's not even to say like, oh yeah, you know, you have to make sure you get into heaven. Like I don't like that. What I do think is that you have to, like, there is a way that you have to tether yourself to something. I would say that like the thing that I find compelling is the people around me. You know, I see everybody as like my equal. You know what I'm saying?
God.
Yeah.
Everyone is a god.
Yeah, like low key. Like I feel like everyone has something super valuable that they possess and they provide to the world, or they have the potential to provide. You know what I'm saying? And I think that all of that is what interests me and what makes me go, yo, like when I help somebody do something, or they help me, like those are the interactions I live for. Those are the things that I'm like, yeah, this is why I'm here, because I have the skills I can use to help people, you know? And like that feels to me is more hinged, more attached to my humanity than like, you know, Kanye West, even though he makes great music, you know. And I'm sure there's a past version of me who's kind of put him a little bit too high up, but you know what I'm saying? But hey, it'd be like that sometimes. I am a god.
Gods have changed.
So hurry up with my damn croissant.
Couldn't have said it any better myself.
Yeah. So there's a great book called American Gods by Neil Gaiman that kind of is very interesting, because it kind of attaches, like I was having this kind of a thought process, because I was really thinking about like just Yoruba, like where I come from, and like how that has influenced the way I think about the world. Because it's like I don't think it went away. Like it's not like, even though I'm like second generation, I was born in the United States, but I feel like I think a certain way, the same way my parents think, the same way like my family, like my relatives think, and it's like, why is that? Like, is it just the culture? Is the culture that strong? Like, but then I sometimes feel either attached or detached from American culture, and I think that maybe it's because there's like a clash between these two things. And like this interesting book, American Gods, which I'm sure plenty of people have heard of. There's a TV show about it. Is that there's like a whole section of it where it's basically it's just like people worship things. and those things eventually form into actual beings that are gods, and then those gods then like interact with the world, like they feed into each other.
Do you have an example? Like what kinds of things? Like
So like
things?
so like I mean the quintessential is that the god Odin, right? It's like Wednesday.
Yeah.
So it's like there's like, and he's like the god of the battlefield and the god of the gallows, of the executions, of the death, like all these different things, wisdom. And so it's like people worship this thing until it coalesced into something, right? But then like the version of him that's in the in Europe versus the version of him that's like quote unquote is still kind of existing in some ways, barely existing in the United States, are different because of the culture that has changed it. So it's just this interesting personification of this idea of like religion existing, and then when it moves, it changes. Like Yoruba culture and religion is very strongly present in South America and the Caribbean, like very strongly.
You mean in the sense that a lot of Yoruba people have ended up there?
Yeah, as a result of slavery and all that kind of stuff, but in also in the case that like the cult, like the religions, like and I don't know it very directly. Like I don't know, like I can't tell you God for God or something, but there's a very close direction between like things like Santeria and like the voodoo and the cult, the occult or whatever it is in South America and Caribbean, and then how that connects very directly to like Yoruba, the Yoruba religion and juju in this, because there's like this very the Yoruba people more than anybody ever are extremely superstitious.
Yeah.
Superstitious as fuck. And it's like even me, like I can't help it, bro. Like it's like, bro, when I was a kid, I used to skip cracks. I wouldn't step on cracks. I would step on a crack and I actually
trying to fuck up your mom's
yeah,
back.
I would actually go. I would go indoors and be like, huh. And it's like I'm also very scientifically minded, So I'd literally be like, I would mess up. I'd step on a crack and I'd go inside and be like, oh damn, she didn't break her back. Maybe it's not true, but I couldn't help myself and skip it the next time, So I mean, yeah. So I think that it's interesting because it's like those shifts happen, but it's like it's very, very apparent that like it's like and also think of something like like Jewish tradition, like when it's just like from either like the Jewish religion or just culturally, there's just a lot of things where it's like how did this religion start out? Well, like I don't know, they were like, yo, pigs are kind of dirty, we can't really decide. I mean, okay, I apologize, I'm about to say the bullshit, but it's like like it's like we think that we can't really guarantee to sanitize this animal, so we're just not going to eat it, and so we're going to keep it off the menu, and like that's just like a survival mechanic for people who don't have don't have like the resources to be very sterile or whatever.
Oh, you think that's a way of culture influencing religion?
Yeah.
Or not necessarily culture in this case, but like circumstances.
Yeah, it's just like you just
religion.
write down some rules, and then those rules they become stories, because it's like I think, and that's also an interesting thing, and like obviously a lot of people talk about this. Like I always watch, and so this has definitely influenced me. But also, it's like I mean, I grew up Yoruba, and this is something I'm sure I'll talk about in the future. Is that the Yoruba were a story only people. we didn't have any written anything until the modern era. We used the English language to write our language down. It was only spoken, so we only had a spoken history. So everything is a story, because that's how you tell things down
just by word of mouth.
And so
until a couple hundred years ago.
Yeah, literally.
Oh, wow.
until as of 1980, when or 1980 whatever, when my dad wrote like a thesis on like pre-colonial history using spoken testimonies from the people in his village. Pretty wild. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty
read that.
insane. I think it's in that room over there, if you want to take a look at it.
Check it out sometime.
Yeah, maybe I'll scan some pages. But I think that like so it's like this thing where it's not. I don't think it starts out like it's not like when people say like I don't know like Moses holds up a stone tablet and then God brings a finger down and just writes on it and knocks him back, and like he almost goes blind, and it's the most amazing thing ever. Like I don't think it happens like that. I think what happens is you have things that are important to a group of human beings who are existing in a place. and those things they keep taking note of those things until it becomes a dogma. Like it goes from being just make sure you wash yourself once a week to if you don't wash yourself you're going to hell. And because it's like, how do I convince the fourth generation to keep doing what the first generation did, even if they don't have the same personal experience,
wanting to pass on those traditions,
right?
But not having, I don't know, I don't want to say not having a reason, but
it's like you can't compel
you want to convince them in
how do you
some way,
compel somebody, and if it's a life or death? Like if I'm like, if you stay out late at night, you're gonna attract wild animals. Oh, why? What's wrong with that? Oh, wild animals can hurt you like a bear. I've never seen a bear before. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
it's like,
you're also gonna go to hell for eternity.
Or it's like Baba Yaga, the demon witch will come and kill us all and burn our town down if you don't go to and it's like, oh, and a story about such and such back in the day when, and then now they're intrigued in the story, and it's like, even us today, someone tells a story to you, you get scared. I would anytime we would either watch, and obviously movies, being able to visually see something obviously completely destroys, like creates a whole new situation, but it's like you can be scared off of like a scary story, like just somebody saying words to you can compel you from like almost like a evolutionary standpoint. And I feel like that storytelling creates this religion that people can then use to enforce good practices ideally in their society. That feels like it's like that's what it is for. Like if it's like,
and in a lot of ways, it's probably helped humans to survive. Yeah. Like having those, like wash yourself once a week, you're gonna get less diseases, and and so the people who are passing those things down are gonna survive and then pass those things on.
Exactly. And I think the thing is that sometimes they're too successful.
Yeah.
And I think that like an example of that is that like the Jewish, and it's not, the Jewish religion is like super effective as a religion at keeping its people together. And even till today, like you go anywhere in the United States with the Jewish community and you see a very strong, and we were talking about this the other, like maybe yesterday.
We were talking about this yesterday.
Yeah, like there's like a very strong Jewish community. Like you'll have the synagogue, and then right next to it will be a Jewish community center. And it's like, that's because they have a very strong religion, which it happened. Like I listened to like this 2-hour video about how like it's really interesting. And I don't know, obviously I didn't like check the sources, so this is just some bullshit. But this is interesting history of how like the Jewish religion starts as like they had like this one god of raiding, like because like what they would do is just like raid other peoples and like take their shit, and like that raid god, like that raiding god and storm god slowly incorporates other people's cultures and turns into the guy in the white robe in heaven. You know what I'm saying? Right. He didn't just pop in like that. Like he starts out as like this name that was like Yahweh or whatever, like that, you're not supposed to utter or whatever. Who like he sends them on raids and they kill a bunch of people, take all their shit, like steal all their shit and stuff like that back, and like,
and that's the God that we think of today when it comes to the Abrahamic religions.
Yeah, like, and so it's like as it went along, it collected one God from this other group of people that was more of like a father figure to them, and like more of like a and then those two gods merged together basically. And so like that's kind of like this thing where it's like even attaches back to what I was talking about. It's like American gods, like when these gods like clash, it's like those gods are fighting, like they come together, and like when there's groups of people come together, the gods also come together. It's almost like a personification. It's like the hero of the people, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like Captain America or something. It's like literally, it's like if Captain America like fought Black Panther, and then like it's like, I don't know, like Kenya and the United States became one place, and then like those two also, Captain America becomes Captain Panther or something like that, like some silly thing like that, right? But it's like at the same time, it's like, oh, it is interesting that like those cultural.
Why things, Captain Panther and not Black America?
There'll never be a Black America while the white man is on. Yeah. Anyway, those are my crackpot theories. I think that language is like the programming, like the code for all of this. Like it's like you write the code in your language, and then you execute that on your culture, and you get a religion.
Yeah, I do think that's very, and not just a religion, but a society. Yeah. I think a whole society, and religion is a big part of that.
Right. Religion is like the database.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I feel like it's like religion is the database, and then culture is like what's actually taking place day to day.
Yeah.
And then the society is that, and then the culture. I don't know. Obviously, I'm making too much of a direct representation, but I feel like it can be meaningful to see things in that way, where you're like, how can I actually set this? Like the econophysics class. I don't know if did you take that class?
No.
Okay. But it's like that, but remember that, like, where it's like, okay, how can you try to look at like economics through physics? It's
right.
like
I was in a research group that was doing that for like one semester.
Okay, word.
Yeah.
Cause it's like that's interesting to me, just like the same way that, like, when you're in like you're in a society. It's like, how can I relate this to something else I understand? And I feel like it is interesting that like linguistics is so important to a lot of things. Like linguistics is like it's like a very fundamental thing to what how they created like the first computers in the first place, like, and how they created the ciphers. Like first the ciphers for languages so that they could read messages and break codes that other countries were using. And then they use that thought process to then create computers like Turing, you know. And so it's like linguistics is very fundamental to both human language, but also how you create like something that's Turing complete, like you can then use for programming. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like those things so language is very, very highly tied to like computer science and to all these things, So I think that these things just kind of, there's so many ways that these things cross across boundaries from fields that you might not have any like you wouldn't anticipate would be related. So these are just the things I think about
yeah
when I can't go to sleep.
You've thought about this many times.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right.
So, I don't know. Okay, I think it's been good. I think we've done it.
I think we have done it. I think I've hit a wall in terms of my fatigue and jet lag in the last few minutes here.
Yeah, thank you.
So I apologize for my
you're
lack of
good.
performance.
Thank you for letting me hit you with all of that shenanigans.
Oh yeah, it was fun, and I do enjoy, like, I do think that they're very interesting.
Yeah. Perfect.
So thank you so much for having me on.
Yo, thank you.
Very
thank
honored.
You for being here. Thank you. And this is good. The stream will end now, but this will be up on the YouTube channel within the next week. So please do look for it there, and please follow my guy. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. That is youtube.com/@
Ben the Rules, not Bend the Rules with a D, but Ben, like my name.
His name.
The Rules.
Ben the Rules.
Yeah, check that out. There will be more videos coming soon. We actually just filmed a video yesterday.
We did.
About the state of New Hampshire.
This very
interesting
state.
Place.
Beautiful location.
Talked to some people. Saw some different places.
Yeah, we were looking for a French speaker, but you'll have to watch the video to find out if we were able to find one.
And yeah, thanks to everyone who's watched this deep into the video, because there's been plenty of shenanigans.
Yeah.
And
thank you.
Some more.
Thank you very much. Much love. Thank you, everybody. And it's been real.
Peace.
Peace.